Welcome, everybody, to show 117. Welcoming you to the new year. This is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I'm your handsome host, Gene Walzak, the NFL genius. To my upper left corner, I have Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College, Cuttrell, running the ones and twos.
What's going on, guys?
Did you have a happy New Year?
Yeah, man. I mean, it didn't start off too hot, but I gotta appreciate the new year.
Something tells me you didn't get a kiss when the ball dropped. Y'all didn't watch the ball drop. I don't know. It happened at 12:01, right?
I'm aware. I'm well aware. I was there.
Snap hook left.
To my upper right corner, I got Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally. Look at him. He's running the Bowl Mania again. I feel like Bill has changed his picks a ton on Bowl Mania, like right before the show. Like he gets like right into it. He's like, all right, hold on. Got to get this one. He definitely man, that mug is sexy. But what's up, Uncle Shally? How is your new year?
It's going good. I mean, it can't be any worse than the way 2022 ended. So,
that works.
Kind of in the same boat as Cottrell. But, we'll move on. We're on to 2023 in the words of Bill Belichick.
Hey, listen, I will say this. The college football playoff games were very entertaining. They were very fun to watch. They were both good games. Neither were blowouts. I think they had a stat saying like the Michigan TCU game was the first college football playoff game within one possession since it started. I don't know if that's accurate, but there was two back-to-back. Can y'all think of another one?
Probably
Alabama
the semi.
destroyed Cincinnati. Yeah, no,
the
it's in semi.
Yeah.
In semi.
Yeah.
But
Ohio State and Alabama was a one-possession game in 2014.
Yeah.
Was that a semi?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was in like 5 years. Maybe it was in 6 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I remember I heard that. But whatever that is, my point being is both games were super entertaining. Now, Bill, I'm going to give you the opportunity to lead off with the Michigan situation. But
Okay.
I will say this, and I'm open the door for you. You can walk through it. You could choose to walk through it, or you don't have to. You don't have to walk through it. You could just
slam it shut.
Hey, but the opportunity, man, I felt like that game had a lot of lopsided calls. And from a non-biased perspective, from a person that wasn't rooting for either team, TCU or Michigan, that was a touchdown. That touchdown, it was a touchdown. I don't understand how anyone could rule it not a touchdown. I also thought there was a couple other plays in that game that went TCU's way that I don't know. It just the next play being a fumble really hurt them. And I don't want to give Michigan no blame. You fumbled the ball next snap. You should easily be able to punch that in. But with that being said, it was a touchdown. And the fumble changed the course of the beginning of that game. And I think when Michigan playing from behind and constantly trying to catch up in that game changes their game plan. Their defense felt like they were a little bit more aggressive, which is why they got burnt so many times. And their offense felt like they were pressing, which is why J.J. McCarthy uncharacteristically turned the ball over so many times. So, Bill, the door's open. What's your thoughts?
I mean, listen, I think anybody with a pair of eyes could clearly see that, you're talking about the Roman Wilson play, that it should have been a touchdown. That being said, I mean, we can't fumble from the 2-inch line either, and we did. That game had huge momentum shifts back and forth. We just came on the short end of it. I mean, I will say this: I think they had every opportunity in the world to win that game, and we made mistakes. And not that TCU didn't, but our mistakes were bigger. And you just can't do that type of stuff against a good football team. I think it's the perennial. I feel like we lost that game more than TCU won it. I feel like if we take care of the ball and do the things that we didn't do all year long, we just play our normal game. I feel like we win that game. You throw 2 pick sixes, you fumble on from the 2-inch line, and you still have the ball in your hands. With a minute to go, with a chance to win the game. We easily could have won that game by 14 or 17 points if we do our normal thing. But that being said, TCU. The linebacker's name's escaping me. He had the game of his life. And Max Duggan had 2 enormous throws when Michigan had them in 3rd and long. And He avoided the sack just long enough to get the throw out, and it resulted in 2 touchdowns. Those, you take those 5 or 6 plays, and they're 100% the difference in the game. So all the credit in the world to TCU. They did what they needed to do. They're going to go play a really good Georgia team. But I think I think it hurts for us a little bit more because I really feel like we let one slip away there. I watched that game, and somebody earlier in the day said these games sometimes are won or lost, not necessarily by the plays you do make, it's the plays you don't make. And I think that's entirely true for the way our game ended up playing out. I think Michigan's definitely the better football team, but TCU was better that day, and that's why you play games. They went out, they executed. They threw 2 interceptions, but other than that, they played a very clean game. And like I said, you got to tip your cap to Max Duggan. He had 2 plays where, we were clearly we get the ball back there. I think late in the 4th quarter, I think we win the game. And he had that shallow cross to Quentin Johnson that he extended the play an extra 2 seconds just so he get the throw off before he's about to get sacked on our blitz. And kid took it 70 yards for a touchdown. We get the ball there, 4 or 5 minutes to go, and good field position. I think we win the game, but got to make plays, and that's what he's done all year long. So, again, I tip my cap to TCU. That's why they're going to play for a championship. We're not.
I agree with almost everything that you said. The only thing I don't agree with is that you guys would have won the game by 14, 17 points. I think TCU plays a different game if they're down versus up. But with that being said, I still think you guys should have won the game. Leaving that football game, I didn't think that TCU was the better football team. Cottrell, did you think when you turned the game off, when you switched over to the Ohio State game, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but did you think at the end of the TCU Michigan game, the better team advanced?
No, but I will say for 3 quarters, I was thinking that TCU was showing that they're a better football team. But to Michigan's credit, they kept fighting back. It seemed like there was plenty of instances. Obviously, after the first pick 6, Michigan, you would think that that swung the momentum. But even after that, they rallied back, and then at a point they were down. I believe it was 18, 50 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. They had the quick strike. I believe it was to Ronnie Bell off the flea flicker. But it was at the end of the 3rd quarter, whichever touchdown that was. And, most teams, I feel like not most teams, but a lot of teams in that situation would have almost just, gave up, being down 18 in the championship game that you were 7.5 point or 8.5 point favorites, and being in that situation where you're down so much with essentially, I know a quarter is an eternity, but it's in reality, 3 scores against the team that's in the college football playoffs. So one of the top 5 teams in the country, top 4 teams in the country, that's a tough spot. But Michigan, they never quit. And as much as I was going to say, their D-line got bullied in the trenches, which was, I think that's an accurate statement. Their offense just kept fighting. And, I give them all the credit in the world. To your point about the refereeing, I mean, I definitely can say they were definitely on TCU's side. The touchdown, I told you guys when it happened, the touchdown that got, overturned and he was down early. I said when they showed the replay from the one angle, I thought that he was down right before. I thought he had possession and he was down. But I thought with the original call on the field being touchdown, there was no way that you could overturn that. So that was one situation I think went against Michigan. The end of the game, I told you guys, I thought it was targeting before they even showed the replay. Like when I originally saw it, I thought, this is a targeting call. They showed the replay. There was helmet-to-helmet contact. I thought they would call targeting, and then they didn't. But on the other side, though, I think the refereeing in that game was just bad altogether because there was a situation Michigan was 3rd and long, and McCarthy throws a deep ball, kind of a prayer situation, and they get a roughing the passer call on JJ. And, that was big in that situation because Michigan did go on to score. And looking at the replay, it wasn't a late hit. It wasn't malicious. There was no helmet-to-helmet contact. So I think the refereeing altogether was bad in that game, but TCU definitely caught more breaks, especially, in those tough spots.
Okay. Any final comments on TCU Michigan? Because
I mean, 44 points in a. I mean, you just number just by itself. I mean, it's wild. But you know, I mean, I mean, it's everything we thought it was going to be. Maybe a little bit sloppier, but I mean, it was a good game between two good teams that want to do kind of the same thing. But we're talking about the other game here next. But my disappointment, I think, was a little bit different than Cottrell's, just for the reason I said. I feel like we let that game go versus, I think the outcome of the Ohio State-Georgia game was a little different.
We'll get into that. I just wanted to finish this off at one final point because I feel like it's going to come up before, so let's talk about it now. Is Jim Harbaugh back in Michigan next year?
Yes.
100%.
He said it. He said it before the bowl. Because it's becoming an every year thing now. I mean, he redid his deal after last year, said he was going to stay. Some of the players have already come out and said that he said he was staying. And he went on. He was talking to some weird magazine or something today, and they asked him. And he said, I think I'll be at Michigan. I just feel like we go through this every year now, and it's becoming a thing. His name just gets attached to everywhere, no matter what, because he's just a hot button name, and because he coached in the NFL before and he was successful, obviously. I think
there's fire. If he's constantly being attached, you don't hear other names constantly attached to different coaches. When there's smoke, I think Jim Harbaugh was going to leave last year, which is why they redid his contract.
Me too. I don't think he got the offer that he wanted, but of course Michigan was like, we got to bring you back. The one thing that kind of, I think, makes Harbaugh a little bit different is that you have to figure that Michigan is his dream job. Like, it has to be I feel like it has to be a perfect situation for him to leave Michigan, especially now that he has the program turned around. He's won 2 straight Big Ten championships. I think the one job that would take him back to the NFL would be Indianapolis. It's crazy as the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, is. I think that's a perfect system. They have a perfect roster in place for what he likes to do. I think that would be the one job that I think could lure him away from Michigan.
What's up, Coach Dante? I seen you check in a couple times. Appreciate you. What's up, Jeremy, Freddie? How y'all feeling?
And to the smoke is fire thing, there was a ton of smoke is fire last year. He ended up staying. And they only redid his contract. He only got a little bit more money, which is more extended than anything. And again, his name's going to come up simply because he's a proven commodity on that level. But yeah, like, is Ryan Day as good as coach as Jim Harbaugh? Sure. He's never coached in the NFL before, though. Like, you're not going to hear from Nick Saban. Nick Saban went to the NFL and flopped. Jim Harbaugh made a Super Bowl in the NFL. He's won division championships. He's won FC championships. So yeah, his name's going to be attached more to other coaches because he's a proven commodity. Like, he's a more of a sure thing. And again, I don't think he goes to Indy. I mean, I think Indy and Denver are the only 2 logical landing spots for him. Obviously, we don't know what else is open at this point. But again, I don't know. I think he stays. Those Bruce Feldman came out and said that people close to him. Of course, it's never it's my whole anonymous source thing. And he, like I said, he did an interview yesterday, and he said he expects to be at Michigan. In regards to hiring an agent, he's always had an agent. So
the first time you said that, though, you said his response was, "I think I'll be at Michigan," and that doesn't leads credence to him keeping the door open.
Again, I think if somebody goes, "Hey, I'll give you 50," this like the whole Gruden thing. I think if somebody is going to offer you $10 million and you think it's a good job, I mean, I think you have to listen to it. Doesn't mean you have to take it. But that being said, I think Minnesota, with the roster they had in place last year, he was interested in that job for obvious reasons. You have Justin Jefferson, you have Dalvin Cook. I mean, we argued about it last week. I don't think Indy's a good spot. I don't think he would go to Indy without a quarterback, and then they don't have a quarterback.
That's the other thing, though. I was reading how poetic would it be for Jim Harbaugh to be coaching C.J. Stroud next year? Like, what a dynamic that would be.
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
man.
I don't either actually, but
I
mean,
thought
yeah,
you were going to
it's
say how poetic would it be for Jim Harbaugh to get Andrew Luck to come out of retirement, because I feel like you have a better chance of that
No,
than you
the
do.
Ohio State Michigan dynamic of. I
Yeah,
mean, the
no, I
Colts are
get
going
it.
to be up. They're going to be high up there in draft. You figure Bryce Young's first QB off the board, and then
I think CJ. So we'll get into that now. You a good segue. Good segue. I'll start the Ohio State Georgia talk. CJ Stroud, you've officially earned my respect. It's the first time I've ever seen you play in a big game that mattered, in which you played exceptionally well. I will say this. You had an NFL cornerback, you had an NFL defensive lineman, and you had an NFL safety on that Georgia team. And you threw the ball to an NFL wide receiver against that NFL cornerback all day and abused him. Keely Ringo got abused in that football game. I was so disappointed in his effort because you guys know I've been on the Keely Ringo train. I'm a Georgia guy. I get it. He's been dominating SEC receivers all year. I think he gave up more yards in that game than he gave up in the last 7 combined. He got dominated in that football game. Marvin Harrison Jr. was unstoppable. Guy's route running is incredible. You're going to see him the next level. I'm telling you right now, his route running reminds me so much of Jetta's in the pros. I'm not saying he's going to be Jetta's, but man, his route running reminds me of that. The way he can get open, the way he stops on a dime, cuts on a dime. Hey, listen, you could tell he learned a little bit from his pops, because that man can get open, and he played great. However, CJ Stroud threw off his back foot, threw out of pressure, threw his receiver open, anticipatory throws. It was abuse. And I got to give Ohio State all the credit in the world. I knew the game was going to be tough. I just didn't know how it was going to be tough. And I said something last week on the show that was proven to be completely wrong. I said, there's no way if Georgia scores 30 points, Ohio State's winning that football game. Well, I was wrong. And with that being, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe how bad he got abused in that football game. Let's continue on that game. Ohio State hit him in the mouth early. I gotta give I gotta give Georgia their credit. Stetson Bennett consistently kept battling back in that game. CJ Stroud would score, Stetson Bennett would match it. CJ Stroud would score, Stetson Bennett would match it. Kept the game close, and finally Georgia got that stop they needed to officially take the lead on that drive. Stetson was perfect on that drive. We said it. We were texting. We're like, you're going to see if Stetson is that guy. And I said, I think he scored too quickly. And he did. CJ Stroud. Now, I will say this, and I'm going to destroy Ryan Day in a second. And I think Cottrell knows exactly where I'm going. Guy called a great game. Gets CJ Stroud, makes a great scramble. They're in perfect position. Then he wants to get cute. Call a run play. Lose a yard. You cannot set I don't care. If it's Justin Tucker and you want to set him up for a 48-yard field goal indoors and think it's automatic, that's fine. You cannot do what he did there. You played for a 48-yard field goal with a college kid. This ain't a pro. Listen, I know he's a good kicker. He's been a good kicker.
He's very good, actually.
It's a college football playoff game. You do not settle for a 48-yard field goal to win that football game. Cottrell, just like I did with Bill, I want you to start us off. Let us know how you seen the game, and I'll give you the door, and you can walk through it if you want.
No, I mean you're 1,000% right there. Ryan Day, that was his one. I told you guys I thought that was his best coach game of his career.
Ever.
I thought that everything that he had going. You even saw the emotion. He was fired up on the sidelines. That was a well coached game from Ryan Day. It was on the verge of being perfect. And that second down run play that you're talking about, I absolutely could not believe that in that situation. Look, I understand, you want to dwindle down the clock a little bit, but like you said, you have to get Noah Ruggles closer to get a better situation for him. Noah Ruggles is 0-4 in his career kicking 50-plus yard field goals. And, you would think that everybody on that staff knows that. Get him in his comfort zone. Get him, if you kick a 35-yard field goal, that's going to be on the money for a kid like that unless it gets blocked. And I thought Ryan Day got a little too conservative there.
Yep.
All season I had got on Ryan Day for being a more conservative coach. And this game he was aggressive. He let CJ open the playbook up and, stretch the field. And I understand Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. That's a huge blow for that offense. But the way CJ Stroud was playing, you have to trust him to, carry that offense, not take a sack in that situation. And I get it. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, a sack here ruins us. And, that changes everything. But CJ Stroud was in that situation. It kind of does, especially without Marvin Harrison.
They still had the timeout. They used the timeout on a 1-yard loss.
No. I get
worse.
I get all of that. But you figure you take a sack there, your big play receiver is not in the game. And yes, you still have other guys that can make plays. I trust CJ in that situation no matter what. I trust him to not make a sack. I trust him to, scramble, make a big play. You saw it all game. This is the most we've seen CJ run all season, where he was scrambling, getting outside the pocket, making those throws outside the pocket. And we talked about that big game that got him there. That was CJ using his legs. I would have aired the ball out to get, my playmakers the ball. And I get it. You lost Cade Stover early. You're number one tight end. You lost Marvin Harrison in the game, but you still got 5 stars out there and Fleming and Ibuka who were also running open. So I think you 100% got to find ways to get them the ball as well.
That was my next question. Was Emeka Ibuka not on the field?
No, 100%. And he was having
for 112 yards and a touchdown.
He was having his way too. And that's why I get on Ryan Day in that situation. But I want to give credit all over to where it's due. Ohio State coming in with the game plan that, hey, we're not going to be conservative. We're going to attack this Georgia team and we're going to try and punch them in the mouth. And that's what they did starting off. You got the pick on Stetson. You had all the momentum. Got to give Georgia the credit for responding. That's what championship teams do in that situation. Defense, that's been the strong of your team all season, and they were dropping the ball. Stetson said, no problem. This game, I got us. I made the mistake. That's on me. But we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to find ways to get there. And so got to give Stetson and company all the credit in the world for that. Last thing I'll say, got to give Kirby Smart all the credit in the world for looking at Ohio State's formation, knowing that something was up, 4th and 1, called a timeout on the punt, on the fake
100%.
Punt. And clearly it worked.
They get that fake punt, the game's over.
The game is over. That is it. Ohio State, they punt, which is, again, I'm on Ryan Day. I would have went for it there. Your offense is humming. I think they can get a yard in that situation, but I also understand it. Defense wasn't playing a great game. You give them the ball on your 30, I see the pros and cons of that, but give Kirby all the credit in the world for realizing that something was up, sprinting down the sideline, getting that timeout in.
So I want to comment, and then I'll go right to Bill. 2 things. I felt like Ryan Day outcoached Kirby Smart for 3.5 quarters of that football game. The last 6 minutes, Kirby woke up and actually coached well. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I understand the game was never out of hand, right? It was never like a 3-possession game where
Right.
Ohio State was just dominating the football game. Can you help me understand this? Because maybe I'm slow. Georgia ran the ball 19 times for 153 yards. I'm not a math scholar, but I'm pretty sure that's a little under 8 yards a carry. Am I right?
Something like
Kenny
that.
McIntosh, 5 carries, 70 yards. Dejon Edwards, 8 carries, 58 yards. Kendall Milton, 3 carries, 26 yards. Brock Bowers, 1 carry, 1 yard. Now, I took, obviously, Stetson's sacks out of there to get the run. You tell me why Stetson Bennett dropped back 41 times and they ran the ball 19. Can you explain that to me? I felt like I was watching the Philadelphia friggin' Eagles. I didn't understand it. And I get it. They scored 41 points or 42 points, but the way to slow down that Ohio State offense would have been to control the clock and give your defense a breather. Am I wrong? They were running the ball at will.
You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. I think it's more game flow, and I think they felt like they had a match every possession. I think they felt like they couldn't go out and possibly get stuffed. And I think Ohio State, kind of the same thing that they did against Michigan. I think their front four played really well at the beginning of the game, like really well. And I don't think Georgia wanted to go out and possibly have a 3-and-out or something like that and give the ball back to CJ Stroud. Like you guys both said earlier, I think it was very evident very early on that Ohio State was going to have they were going to have success throwing the ball. And we talked about Keely Ringo already. It wasn't even so much just Harrison either. No matter who he was on, they were targeting him. They went at him. It was surprising.
It's almost like they seen something in film that gave a tell to what he was doing, because they were running away from him constantly. It was like drag routes. It was comeback routes. It was out routes. Whatever it was, they'd run directly at him and then dart. As soon as it was almost like they seen film.
I think a big part of that too is that Ohio State, obviously, we talk about how special Brian Hartline is as a coach and his ability to get those talented kids in Ohio State. But I think a big part of that is, Georgia's going to be in man coverage, and Georgia, they trust their corners to be out there on their islands. And so I think a big part of it was, Brian Hartline and Ryan Day thought, our guys are better than their guys. So if this is what they want to do, we're going to run these type of routes and we're going to excel in it. So CJ, you put the ball there. Of course, CJ has his trust in his guys. And, like you said, Gene, you gave Ryan Day a month to prepare for this. He was watching all types of film and, that extra week of preparation, because obviously Kirby couldn't prepare until after they won the SEC championship game just to see, who they were playing and all that. That extra week to prepare for Ryan Day, it paid dividends for Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, they said 2 days after Michigan, they were back. They were game planning as if they were going to make it. And I think that extra week of not only prep, I think the extra week of rest as well. I think both those things go in Ohio State's favor, big time. But again, you have to give credit to Ryan Day and the staff for making it count too. I mean, you can sit there and prep all you want, but if you can't implement the game plan and execute it in the game, it doesn't really, it doesn't matter worth a crap, to be honest. I think CJ Stroud, again, I think the game to go out on for a college career, I mean, I think it's about as good as he can play. Sucks that they lost the game, but I mean, that's a really good game to end your college career on, which I think we're all assuming he's going to. I don't think there's any shot he goes back.
Nope, he's done.
He said he's done.
Marvin
Marvin Harrison Jr., just point blank, was the best player on the football field on either side all night. I think he's the best football player on either team. I think Georgia, listen, I'm sure we're going to get into it soon. I think Georgia's got a lot of stuff to clean up. They got a lot of stuff to clean up, and I think they're going to have to play. They're just as well as they did in that game, if not better. The one thing I would say, if I'm an Ohio State fan, it sucks that you lost at the end. Noah Ruggles is a very, very good kicker. He was up for the Lou Groza last year with Jake Moody from Michigan. They finished 1-2 in the voting. I hate to say, I don't want to use the word choke because I don't think it was a choke, but I think the moment just got to him a little bit. And to both your credit, I don't think you try to put that kid in a situation if you don't have to. He just tried to kick it too damn hard. That's all it really was at the end. He over rotated through that kick so bad. That's why it was dead left from the get-go. I feel bad for him. Like I said, he is a good kicker. I just think you probably try to get it closer and more of just a natural leg swing for him where he's not trying to drive the ball.
Somebody that used to kick, Bill, let me ask you a question real quick. When you have to put the power behind that swing, it changes the kicking approach a ton, right? Like if you're kicking 35 and you don't have to put the extra leg behind it, if you're kicking 40 and you don't have to put the extra leg behind, isn't it a way easier kick?
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than like if you try to swing too hard with a baseball swing. It's the same thing. When you try to swing harder and use more arms than you do your hips and your shoulders, your timing's off, and it's just simply a timing thing. He tried to drive the ball too much, and he just opened up too fast. That's all it was. It sucks, man. I mean, obviously part of me was hoping he missed because I want Ohio State to drown in the sorrow with me from earlier in the day, but I feel bad for the kid too. I mean, if you're a kicker, like that's the stuff you live for. I think it would have been a lot easier for them to, like you said, get him a little closer to where it's more of just a natural leg swing for him, where he can just kick it. He knows if he just gets it up in the air, it'll make it. I was surprised they went to that hash, if I'm being honest. If we're going into the kicking thing, being a right-footed kicker, I always wanted to go from the other hash because right-footed kickers just more naturally draw the ball. I was shocked. Obviously that was a discussion they had with him, so he felt more comfortable from the left hash. But to try to drive the ball, and knowing, if anything, when you do try to drive the ball, you're usually going to pull the ball to the left. I was shocked they went to that left hash. That did surprise me. But it was a good game. I don't like, moral victories or anything like that. But I mean, Ohio State can at least hold their heads high and know they played their asses off because they did.
Yeah.
But
Ryan Day gave up play calling too. He said that was his last game calling plays. I think that'll be good for him long term too. I think he has to focus more. I think he wants to put more of his focus on the defensive side of the ball because Jim Knowles was brought in to be stout, and the two most important games, you give up 40 plus to both of your opponents. So I think that.
Listen, I'm not saying it's the same situation because you guys run a completely different offense than we do, but it's worked wonders for Michigan. That was part of the thing with Michigan. He had to kind of let go of his ego a little bit, and he doesn't call plays anymore, and he concentrates on. He has input, but doesn't have final say, and he coaches like the lines and the quarterbacks. So maybe that'll be a good change for you guys.
I also think that it will help Jim Knowles to get his type of players in on the defensive side of football.
Correct.
That's also true.
I feel like that matters. You might not have the most talented kid in the world, but if you got that dog in him, I think that matters.
I said that earlier. There's not a lack of talent. Ohio State recruits defense just as well as they recruit offense. They have 5, 4, and 5-star kids everywhere. But again, you look what he's done at Oklahoma State. Those aren't 5-star kids.
Correct. That's my point there. But they're his guy.
Correct. And it's good. You're going to take a cycle or two to get those types of guys in to where we're really going to see it. But
took Robert one full season.
Yeah, it's a little different in college, but
I get it. I'm just saying it took him one full season. That's it. Like it took him a whole season, and then next season the defense played better. That's my point.
Yeah, but
it took him a whole NFL season.
Correct. But my point is, I think it's the turnaround in college is a little bit more difficult. It's going to take
quicker or longer, shorter,
longer.
In college.
Yeah, for sure, longer in college.
Yeah,
you got to think the guys in NFL. You could trade for guys that are NFL ready. If Jim Knowles is bringing in his guys, they're 18, 19. They're not going to play for a couple years. Like you're still essentially sticking with the guys who were there till your guys are old enough and ready to be on that field.
And all the kids that came in this year weren't his kids. They were already signed when he took the job. So the first recruiting cycle of kids where he's had any kind of saying will be next year. Okay. So you're looking at them being sophomores. You have the rare freshman that stands out, but you're 2 years from today to where those kids are sophomores and probably, predominantly playing and starting on the defense. Correct.
Let's talk about the national championship. It's coming up. Georgia versus TCU. The spread opened up at 14. Georgia is a 14-point favorite over TCU. The first reaction I've got from plenty of people, including Mattress Mac, who just put $1.5 million on TCU money line, was it's too high. It's too high. So do you guys think that the spread is too high? You know the way I feel. I love that the spread's 14 because I don't care what the spread is of the game. I want Georgia to win. So the spread being 14 means they're trying to get TCU money. And if you're trying to get TCU money, it means Vegas thinks Georgia's going to win. And we'll talk about that with the Eagles in a minute because I love that situation too. But let's talk about the national championship. Georgia versus TCU. I do not think, and I'll just be clear when I start this, and we'll go right around the horn again. I do not think TCU imposes the same issues that Ohio State did. Max Duggan, CJ Stroud, I get it. Listen, I'll admit when I'm wrong. TCU has a number one wide receiver also, but it's not Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that Georgia's defense as a whole will be able to handle TCU's offense much better than Emeka Egbuka Marvin Harrison Jr. and CJ Stroud. I've really believed that. And I don't think that TCU's defense is going to give Stetson Bennett in that Georgia run game much more problems than Ohio State. I think that Georgia will come in. And I also think the smaller preparation always leads to the better team winning the football game. Longer preparation, you can see a lot more things happening, as you've seen in the Ohio State-Georgia game. Ryan Day was way more prepared for that game than Kirby Smart. It's just that is what it is. We can't lie about that. Watched it be in the game. So I think everything lines up for Georgia to repeat as national champions, but I will pause there and we'll go around the horn.
So, I mean, when the lines came out, we were talking about it because they came out shortly after the game was over, and we all three of us were still talking about both games. My gut instinct right away was that it was too much. The more I think about it, the prisoner of the moment type thing, it's down to 12.5 now.
Yep. Got that down to 12.5.
So, I don't think it's much different than what we thought earlier. I mean, I don't think TCU is as good as Ohio State. I don't. I don't think TCU is as good as Michigan. We talked about that earlier. I think Georgia's clearly the better football team. Does TCU have the tools to go out on one night and have a magical night and get it done? I think so. Do I think they're going to win? Probably not. 12.5 money line's only 430, which is kind of low for a 12.5 point favorite. So, I mean, Vegas is, pretty much telling you they think Georgia's going to win, but it's not a 9 out of 10 confidence type thing. But listen, I think Quentin Johnson is not Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think they're different types of receivers. I think he poses a completely different set of
He's
problems.
bigger. He's more physical.
Yeah, he's more of a just kind of line up and run by you and out jump you. I think he poses a different set of problems for Georgia than Marvin Harrison Jr. did. Across the board, is TCU's wide receiver room as good as Ohio State's? No. But they have 3 or 4 guys that are all capable of making catches and run. A lot of that will depend on how long Max Duggan has to throw the ball. Ohio State, for the most part, you have to give them credit. Jalen Carter was not a huge influence on that game. They kept him under wraps, and you have to applaud the offensive line. They did their job. They gave CJ time to throw in the pocket, and when they wanted to roll him out, then Jalen Carter is almost a non-issue on those plays anyway. I think TCU can learn a lot, but I think they're capable of replicating a lot of what Ohio State did. Probably not to the same high standard, but Max Duggan likes to roll out and throw the ball out of the pocket anyway. I think they're capable of keeping that game close. I think they're capable of pulling the upset. I think the 3-3-5 defense, I think it'll be curious to see how Georgia handles that at the beginning of the game. It clearly caused issues for us at the beginning of the game until they got used to it. And then obviously once they adjusted to play calling, they started getting chunk plays with JJ. But it'll be interesting. I mean, Kirby's as good as it gets. We've seen that. I think there's opportunities for them to be there. Just you balance the better team versus is this really going to be a full Cinderella run? Like, does TCU just get it done and it's their time and it's fate, and people love to play that storyline because sometimes it comes true. I don't know if that's going to be the case next Monday, but I think they have the ability to do it. I don't think they will. I know we're going to give predictions, but I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. I
hope it's a good game.
I hope it's a good game too. I mean, it's especially after the two semifinals.
Disappointing after, yeah.
Correct. After the 2 semifinals we just watched, for that to go out and Georgia to win by 30 would suck. To end the season on a dud like that, but
agreed.
We'll see. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting matchup, and it's fate versus can Georgia repeat. I mean, that's kind of where we're at now.
Control.
So obviously, I hope it's a good game, but this game is giving me, I think it was the 2013 national championship game, Alabama versus Notre Dame, where you had the Mantateo year where, he was second in the Heisman, Max Duggan second in the Heisman, going up against the number 1 team in the country in Georgia. At that point, it was Alabama. I really think this game is going to be one of those nasty blowouts. I think it's going to be, a 42-14 kind of game. I think that the way that Georgia offensive line is set up, if they're not the best offensive line in college football, they're second. It's Georgia and Michigan. Like they're 1 and 2, no matter any way you slice that. Going up against that 3-3-5 that Shally brought up, I think when you have maulers, which I know Michigan did, and they like he said, they struggled against it. But I think seeing what they do on film against that caliber offensive line and seeing what was successful in that second quarter on for Michigan, I think that's going to, pay huge dividends for the Georgia Bulldogs team. And like you said, Gene, Quentin Johnston is special. He's probably going to be the first receiver off the board come April. He's not Marvin Harrison Jr. And you can plan for Quentin Johnston a lot better knowing that Emeka Egbuka is not on the opposite side. As much as you want to carry the safety over Marvin, then you're susceptible to the underneath routes with Emeka. With Georgia and Quentin Johnston, I bet the safety's over him pretty much all game, and you see Keeley follow him. If he makes the big plays on Keeley, so be it. But there's going to be a safety over top, and that Georgia D-line is going to get after Max Duggan. Like, I don't think he can escape the same way that he did against Michigan. Like, I just don't see that happening. And, for all intents and purposes, I know Max made some big plays against Michigan, but he didn't have a great game, like by any means. He had a couple bad turnovers. I know they were tip passes, but I just don't see Stetson Bennett throwing, 2 pick sixes and putting TCU in that position. That was a big momentum game. I think Georgia comes out, they come out fast, they come out strong. It's a lot different when you go up 14-0 as opposed to being down 14-0 in the national championship game, especially against the defending champions. So I see this one getting ugly. I think Georgia rolls. I think they win 28+. I think the line being at 14 for Vegas purposes is perfect just because, you want people to think that this game is going to be close. But I really think this is going to be one of those ugly national championship games where by 9:30, if you wanted to go to bed, you could, unless you really wanted to just watch Georgia be crowned.
85% of the money's on TCU. It's already moved to 1.5. Vegas, if 85% of the money was on TCU and it didn't move at all, I would let you know that I think Vegas thinks this is 100% a Georgia blowout. I think they wanted to get TCU money because they wanted to protect their ass against that situation. But now that 85% of the money is coming in, Mattress Mac being on TCU the whole 9 yards, I think they're starting to lower that line. It's down to 12.5. And I think that's where it will sit. I think it'll close around 11.5. I really believe that. With that being said, I think Georgia wins the game by 17+. I believe that. I think that they'll run the football. I think they'll get ahead, and I think they're way better front runners than they are coming from behind. Now, they showed you twice this year now that they can come from behind. Stetson Bennett. By the way, fun question for you guys. I want to ask you guys a question. Who's older, Stetson Bennett or Joe Burrow?
Aren't they like the same age?
Yeah, he would have to be the same age. Him, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I think they're all 25.
Stetson Bennett's 25. Joe Burrow's 26.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett, same high school season as Lamar Jackson. That funny statement right there. Bennett is not older than Burrow. Burrow is just older, but Bennett is older than Herbert. Bennett is older than Tua. Bennett is older than a lot of those quarterbacks that are fresh.
Same age as Josh Allen. That's crazy.
He is 25 years old. I think that the leadership that a grown man, a 25-year-old, has in that Georgia locker room is going to be what that Georgia team needs. And it's exactly what their offense needed versus Ohio State. He did not show any – he was fully poised, and that throw he made across the middle, that 35, 37-yard reception right down the middle of the field on a dime, that showed you everything that you need to see. I think Georgia wins this game. I think Georgia wins this game pretty handily.
I think it's somewhere in between. Cottrell brought up the Alabama Notre Dame game. That game was such a mismatch, just physically and talent wile.
You're right.
Notre Dame got there because they were undefeated. They were independent, but I mean, that was that's that's the Derrick Henry team, I believe. They just ran over Manti Te'o. Like that, you had 4 starting offensive linemen on that team that are in the NFL. That were in the NFL. That was just such a physical mismatch. It was, and I don't think you're getting that. I don't think you're getting that on Monday. I think Georgia's definitely the more talented team. Cottrell did bring up one good point though with Quentin Johnson, and the one thing Michigan did take away from them is they wouldn't let him get over top. If he was in single coverage, they had Will Johnson on him, who's a 5-star kid. He was great. Jesse Minter's taking a ton of heat. He was the guy that was actually blitzing that almost got Max Duggan on that shallow cross. He followed him pretty much all game long. When he wasn't on him, they had a safety over top. They took that whole part of the game away from TCU. You look at the end result of that. Quentin Johnson scored like a 78-yard touchdown, but it was a 3-yard route. I think Georgia's going to be able to do the same thing, and I think their game plan is going to be exactly what Michigan did. I think they'll probably have Keeley on them, and if they take Keeley off of them, they'll put somebody over top.
Yeah, that
I think is a huge advantage for Georgia. They saw that it works already, and they by far have the personnel to do it. I think this is somewhere probably around the spread, and I say that I think Georgia's probably always in control. Maybe TCU makes a push late and gets it to like within 17, like Gene said, somewhere in that area. I don't think Georgia's probably ever in danger of losing this football game, though.
I got it 41-24 Georgia. That's my final.
I was literally looking at like 41-27, 43-27, somewhere in there. That's where I was. Again, I just think Georgia. I don't want to say this because it feels like I'm bashing TCU, but I'm not. But Eugene already said it. Stetson Bennett's not going to throw 2 pick sixes. I don't think Georgia's going to fumble on the 1-yard line. They needed all that and then some to beat Michigan. Georgia's not going to do that, and I just don't think they're going to beat them. I think Georgia's your back-to-back national champion.
Cottrell, final score?
Score-wise, give me 42-14.
Okay. Blowout City.
Cottrell wants blood now.
Look, I get it. I would want Georgia to blow out TCU too if I was an Ohio State fan, because you could literally just say we lost by 1 point and they eventually destroy TCU.
That doesn't make me feel any better. I'm not going to lie to you. Either way, I feel like that's going to make me feel worse, because I'd be like, I know if we make that field goal, then we win the national championship. So,
bro, Georgia
either way it goes,
all the way from getting knocked out, bro.
Yep. So either way it goes, I won't feel better. I mean, I don't have the moral victories. This season was a waste in my book.
Ooh.
I think I get it. I think you're seeing the difference in the defense, though. I mean, I think their offense is just as good as it was last year. Their defense is clearly not on the same level. And I think you just have to give last year's team even more credit when you look at
Georgia.
Now. Yeah.
I think their offense is better than it was last year.
Oh, it could absolutely.
Be.
Absolutely, it's better.
My point is they're definitely not going backwards. The defense,
100%.
This year's defense is nowhere near what it was last year.
Bro, I'll say it again. I'll say it again. And I'll say it again. I really look, guys. You might think I'm the craziest person on the planet. You guys, I rewatched the episode after the national championship when Georgia played Alabama last year. I rewatched it yesterday. The whole episode. Well, the NCAA portion of it. I remember these my thoughts leaving that football game, and they're my thoughts now. Nakobe Dean's leadership. Nakobe Dean's quarterbacking of the defense was like the glue that put all that talent together. And when you look at this Georgia team, who is your Nakobe Dean? If Javon Carter is your best player, that's great. But I don't see Javon Carter really just leader, grabbing everybody.
I'll never forget it. Jalen Carter's on the D line, so you can't
understand.
It's a little different.
I don't see any. I remember the play like it was yesterday. Georgia linebacker, and I'm pretty sure it was Quay Walker, missed an assignment on a play. Alabama had a touchdown and he missed it. The throw was missed. It got broken up, and Georgia's celebrating. And Nakobe Dean walks right up to him and goes, You can't miss that play. Screaming at him. They just got the ball on a 4th down. The whole team celebrating. The Kobe Dean's like, no, you got to be there. You can't miss that play. Like, that can't happen. That is what I think the difference is. I don't think the difference talent-wise is crazy different. Talent-wise. But I will say this. Leadership-wise, I think it's a big difference.
It's a big difference. I think they're both big differences. I 100% agree with you, Kobe Dean. But I've said it when we've gone back and forth on this the last couple of weeks. Some people are going to say name recognition-wise, the old Miami defense with Lewis and Ed Reed and all them.
Yeah.
But as a unit, I'm telling you, like I could tell you from watching football from 12 on and like being cognizant and like really starting to understand what was happening. It's the best defense I've ever seen play in college, and it's not close. That's how good they were.
I felt that way too.
The one pushback that I'll give you, and I'm not taking anything away from them. I think they're top 3 for sure all time. The one pushback that I'll give you, exactly SC championship game. Bama hung 41 on you when they had their guys, Williams and Mechie in there. And
can I be real with you though?
What's up?
That team, that Bama team, is going to have a 1st overall pick in Bryce Young this year. Is going to have the best wide receiver in that class before he tore his ACL in Jamison Williams, a 2nd-round wide receiver in John Mechie, a 1st-round left tackle in Evan. They were playing a professional football team on that offense.
No. And that's not me taking anything away from them.
I get it.
But I think when you talk about teams like the 01 Hurricanes that won, what was it like? They won something stupid like 30 games in a row or something like that.
Is that Catholic versus Convicts year?
Yeah, when they had Sean Taylor and Jonathan Vilma and all those guys.
Tell me the best offense they went against.
I get it. Off the top of my head, I'm not gonna.
I know. I'm just saying we can't have this conversation another week. After Georgia wins the national title, we can talk about it.
Absolutely, but I just think it's different when you have that one blemish on your record when other teams didn't have that blemish. I get it, competition. I get it, but that'd be my one pullback from saying they're undisputed number 1. That's all.
That's fair. All right, guys, let's move on to the NFL. Good portion of the show, college football. Look at that, 54 minutes. We got our awards coming up too. Tell your friends, because what we're going to do, and we have 3 nominees, and if we're split, if we're 1-1-1, the first vote in the comments is going to win the award. The first vote, that's it. Whoever the first person to comment is wins. It's only if we're split 1-1-1. All right, Control, throw the NFL schedule up. Thank you so much. Season finale week. Listen, I'd be remiss. Actually, do you mind pulling it down for 1 second? I'd be remiss if we didn't start the NFL segment by just sending a prayer out. Buffalo Bills, Damar Hamlin. What we watched on Monday Night Football. I remember Control messaging me. I was sick, agitated watching it. Like what happened. It was just sickening. You had chills through your body. I could see your text messages coming through on my phone. I watched it live. I watched them collapse. I'll be completely honest with you. I thought he died on the field. I really did. By the reaction that they were given and the prognosis now that positive feedback is coming through is great news. That there's, from where I was, I'm telling you right now, when they had to administer CPR for 9 minutes on the field.
I mean, he was technically dead for 9 minutes.
I honestly thought he was gone. And I wanted to just start the NFL segment. I think it is right for us to at least just take a second. I've said tons of them. I'm sure you guys have. But to audience out there, anybody listening, let's take a second and say a prayer for Damar Hamlin. We're not going to say it out loud. We don't have to read a whole prayer out, but I'm going to take a second to just silently wait and pray. All right. So I think that's very, I'm like squirming. Like my anxiety levels are never high on these shows, but my anxiety talking about this is so high because I care so much about the situation. I know how much Cottrell cares, Bill cares. We were texting during the game, and and we're going to give you a sports show, right? Because this podcast is going to air for months on top of months, but it would be wrong for us to have an NFL segment and talk about NFL football without saying a prayer and acknowledging Damar Hamlin, and we're all praying for a speedy recovery. Hopefully, he makes a full recovery. He can start breathing on his own. The results and the positive feedback that we've been getting have been great from his family, from his teammates. One thing that I heard, and I wanted to share it on the air, is I heard Zach Taylor gave an interview, and he said him and Sean McDermott were talking during the break when he was down. And Sean said, I need to be at the hospital with Damar. I feel like I need to be there for Damar. And Zach Taylor immediately said, we're not playing this football game. He needs to be there for Damar, his teammate. And I wanted to applaud that. I wanted to applaud all the efforts, all the donations that were put to Damar's fund. But I kind of wanted to just give him some roses, Zach Taylor some roses, for the way it was whatever. And Joe Burrow said today, we're going to do whatever Buffalo wants to do for playing this game. They want us to play whenever. It's going to be tough regardless, but we'll do whatever Buffalo wants us to do. That was Joe Burrow. That brotherhood, when you've seen the pictures of Joe Burrow and Josh Allen next to each other, the look on Josh Allen's face, I don't know. I just kind of want to give it some mention. I'll pause now if you guys want to interject anything there before we get into any NFL football.
I mean, it's just so crazy because this is so, it's such a one-off. And I hate to, use a term like that in this situation, but like we've never seen something like this. Obviously, we've seen, traumatic like collisions where, people have been down and we've been wondering about, paralysis and things like that. But I feel like we've never been in a situation where we've truly, seen something like that and thought, they may not be walking away from the field alive. And so, just watching that, seeing it live, it was like one of those, I feel like as soon as I saw it, you just knew something wasn't right. Even before they said on the air that they were giving him CPR, my first thought, obviously, I don't want it to be just this negative thing, but my first thought was, did he just die on the field? Just because of how everything happened, you saw his head smack off the turf after he just went completely limp. So, and you saw just the worry and just the unknowingness around everyone involved in that situation. You saw Stephon Diggs on camera. You saw Josh Allen's reaction. Like everyone was so close to that situation, and it was just so unprecedented. And I want to give credit. You gave credit to Zach Taylor. I want to give credit to the people whose names that we don't know, and that's the medical staff and all the athletic trainers that were there for being able to respond so quickly and knowing exactly what to do in that situation and doing CPR that long, knowing not to move him and get him in the ambulance, but to continue doing CPR and making sure that he was stable enough to be transported and really give him that fighting chance. So want to give credit to everybody in Cincinnati. It seems like all these tragic and a lot of tragic instances keep happening in Cincinnati, whether it be Tua and his injury, Ryan Shazier and his injury a few years ago. Cincinnati's medical staff and their athletic trainers are always, ready to go, and they make sure these players are in great hands and they take care of them down there. So I wanted to give the Cincinnati athletic training staff a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, you read all the articles, you watch all the the interviews or just retired players talking, and it's G mentioned it earlier with the brotherhood, and at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all players in the same league. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. I mean, you go to a game and you want to beat somebody, and you try. Some of these guys are more competitive than others, but nobody ever wants to see anybody get hurt on purpose. Nobody wants to see anybody get God forbid it wasn't the case for this, but nobody wants to see anybody get tragically hurt. Crazy thing was, I mean, it's, Cottrell will know this. This happened a year and a half ago in the Euros. Something very similar happened to Dennis Eriksson when he was playing for Denmark. he kicked the ball and he was walking and then just collapsed. And the same kind of thing. They had to give him a CPR on the field. The players were all circled around, so nobody could really see what was going on. But I don't think people realize to compete at that level, how mentally locked in you have to be, and and be paying attention to every little thing. And then all of a sudden to switch, flip a switch and see your teammate, or somebody you're playing against on the ground, and then you cutting off a jersey and cutting off shoulder pads and getting CPR performed on them. We lose sight of the fact a lot that as much as these guys are warriors and whatever you want to call them, they're human beings. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the meanest person in the world. If you're sitting there and you watch somebody that you love or somebody that you go to battle with every Sunday, and all of a sudden you're watching them, lifeless, and watching people perform CPR on, like, you can't block that out. That's not something you can forget in 3 minutes and go play football again. The human mind doesn't work that way. These guys are together every day for, 9 months out of the year. Like, they're family. Like, their families know each other. They have people over for holidays. It's, you see it before with Hard Knocks, like, with other teams we've seen, like, these people become family. It's not a word to use lightly. Crazy thing, I was watching it, and the second I saw it, I kept watching the replay, and, like you said, we were texting, and I don't know why, and by all means, I'm not a freaking doctor or anything like that, but I remember the story from 5 or 6 years ago where, and this only sticks out to me, obviously, because I'm a huge baseball fan. There was a little league player somewhere in Idaho or some random state, and he was pitching. He was 8 or 9 years old, and the kid hit a line drive. It hit him right in the chest, like right where his heart was. And the same type of thing happened. His heart stopped, and unfortunately, they couldn't revive him. The kid died. And after I kept watching the replay and the way he tackled Higgins, that's just what popped in my head. They were speculating it was a head injury. It was this. I didn't think it was anything like that. And that's just what popped into my head. I was like, T. Higgins was running full speed, and Hamlin's chest took the brunt of all that. Yeah. And to find out that's what it was, I mean, it's nuts, man. I mean, it's, it's one of those things where you're thankful and you pray, and, you're happy that it happened to somebody who's in that type of shape that can, withstand, 9 minutes of not being responsive. The odds of that are not good. And he's apparently, his vitals, other than his breathing, everything is normal. They don't think he's going to have any kind of loss of brain function or anything. I don't know if he's ever going to play football again, but
I don't know if I ever would.
I agreed. I mean, I don't know how you tackle anybody with any kind of confidence after that happens. I just don't. It's.
And I think that with the help of the donations and everything that's being sent his way, I hope he doesn't have to. I hope he never.
Yeah, I mean, it's over $6 million now, which is crazy, and I'm glad. Like, when you open this segment, it's refreshing to see. Obviously it's still around the holiday time, but to see him be able to touch that many people's lives that quickly, and you start to hear all the stories that came out like immediately about him, like. Ohio State recruited him, Michigan recruited him, and he stayed at Pitt because he wanted to be closer to a younger brother, because he wanted to be in his younger brother's life. So Mike Tomlin talked about how he knows him personally, how good of a kid he is. I think right now, football side, I think everybody just hopes he gets back to, a full recovery and he'll live his life normally. I don't think anybody's really worried about football. And you have to give the Bengals credit. I mean, everything I've read and heard the last couple of days, the first 3 minutes after that happens determines a lot and is vitally important to how you come out of it. And they did a great job. I give them credit too. His mom was in the stands. They found her quickly so she could ride in the ambulance with him to the hospital. They handled it as bad as, I don't think you can handle it any better, if I'm being honest. So
a couple of things I kind of wanted to add. And I feel like you can tell, and I'm not trying to pat anybody on the back in this room. I'm not trying to do that or use this situation for any type of clout. I just want you to know who you're listening to. Okay. I just pulled up the text messages at 9:06. Now, what happened is, I think it happened at 8:58. I'm pretty sure we kind of found out how serious it was about 8 to 10 minutes afterwards. I'm not going to read you the names, but me, Bill, and Cottrell are in a group chat, but I won't read you who said what. My heart hurts watching that. It's wild. I'm in shock. No way they can finish this game. Sounds like we kind of knew they shouldn't finish that game way earlier than the NFL did. Heart legit hurts, man. I can't believe I just watched that. Crazy. And I kind of wanted to use that as a segment to talk about the people. And just real quick, we'll get right into football after this. But to talk about the people that were blowing up FanDuel about their bets, that were blowing up ESPN or Yahoo about their fantasy football games immediately. I don't know where your heart is. I don't know where, like, I don't know what you could be thinking to do something like that. I seen a response on Twitter and, oh, they don't care about me. So I don't really care. I just want to get my money. Or I'm down 11 points in my fantasy football matchup. And dude, I'm like teared up. I don't get like this over anything. It's tough to view things like that from people that you think that you follow or you talk to or that you know. Come on, man. A guy's laying on the field lifeless. And you're worried about if the football game is going to continue or how you're going to get paid. How you're going to get your money back from FanDuel. What they're going to do about your bet. What's going to happen with your fantasy football matchup. I can't. Like I can't understand how that runs through your head. It just does it drives me nuts. So I kind of wanted to talk about that for 1 second and just
I mean, I agree. I mean, I posted about it that night because that stuff started popping up on my Facebook feed. It started popping up on my Twitter, and I was just like, I mean, listen, everybody on this podcast is an avid fantasy football player. I'm in multiple leagues. Cottrell's in the league that I run. Gene plays more fantasy football than I think anybody I know. I can tell you point blank, dude. I didn't open my fantasy app. I still don't care. I think it's a little different now knowing that, it looks like he's going to be okay. But in that moment to be bitching about, you winning your league or did you come in second? Are you going to win? I said it on my post and I was very blunt about it. I felt it needed to be said. I feel like that if you're watching that game and your only takeaway is you don't know if you're going to win fantasy or, you didn't win your bet or you didn't do this, I think you're a piece of shit. And I said it on Facebook and I'll say it on here. I don't care. And there was people that I'll say that I'm relatively close to that posted stuff and I got quite a few messages about my post. And I'll tell you right now, as I'm sitting here right now, I still mean it and I still don't care what you think. For lack of a better term, man. I mean, a guy died on the football field for 9 minutes. I don't care what FanDuel does with your parlay. I don't.
Not at all.
I'm in the championship and Bills league. I never once asked them what we were doing. And I will. What was going on with it or what?
Yeah. And I will give Cottrell's roses, and he's in the championship against Brandon, who listens to the show all the time. He was in here earlier. That's our championship matchup, and I will tell you point blank. And I work with Brandon, so I see Brandon 60 hours a week. Neither one of them ever reached out, texted me. Nobody said a word about it. It first came up yesterday, and I brought it up to Brandon because I was going to call Cottrell. But I can tell you nobody cared. Nobody brought it up. Nobody gave a shit about it. And that's how it should be. I mean, this isn't a fantasy or a betting thing. It's a human being issue. And if you can't see that, then I mean, maybe you need to rethink your priorities in life.
Agreed. All right, guys. Let's try to give these people a sports show and continue. It's tough to do that after having that conversation, but it needed to be said. It needed to be addressed with everybody, to our listeners. And now you know where we stand and how we stood just 9 minutes after it happened, where the NFL took a half an hour to make a decision that was so obvious to three schmucks that watch football. But All right. So week 18, season finale. I'm going to go through the games and we're going to talk about how meaningful or meaningless they are. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it, right? So Chiefs versus Raiders has a little bit of meaning. Kansas City could still get the 1 seed if Buffalo slips up. I don't know what's going to end up happening with the football game between the Bills and the Bengals. But for all intents and purposes, the Chiefs should not lose that football game. Can we all be in agreement there?
Yeah, I think they're going to kick the shit out of Las Vegas. I mean, Vegas has nothing to play for. I mean, it's a pride thing. They already benched Derek Carr, and I get it. You know, Jared Stidham, he threw the ball to Devontae Adams a lot, and they seem to have a connection. But you know, I see Kansas City rolling that one. They want to lock up the 1 seed if they can. Obviously, we still don't know what's going on in that Buffalo game, but you know, I truly think there's a chance that game just doesn't get played and they just count it, you know, keep the records as is and go with that standing. But I mean, the unknown for Kansas City, I think you have to go in, make a statement, and try and lock that game up.
Can I tell you what I think is going to happen there? I mean, listen, if we're being realistically, there's no way they're playing that game because Cincinnati is going to have to play the following week in a playoff game, regardless of what happens in that game, and it's not going to affect Cincinnati. Can't get higher than the 3 seed.
Oh, Cincinnati can get the 1.
Only if but if Kansas City wins, they can't.
That's correct. Yes.
So when Kansas City wins Saturday,
Cincinnati forfeits the game.
That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to forfeit the game. Buffalo's going to go to 1. As long as Buffalo wins on Sunday, Buffalo will be the 1. Kansas City will be the 2.
Thing is, though, I don't know if Cincinnati forfeits that game though, because they're in a situation where they could not win the division as well.
Well, if they win versus Baltimore, if Cincinnati wins Sunday.
I'm
Kansas
assuming
City wins Sunday.
No,
I'm talking assuming Cincinnati beats Baltimore on Sunday. And Kansas City wins. Then they're stuck and they can't go to 1. I think they forfeit the game.
I agree.
And I think
they
people
get the home field versus Buffalo. That's the only thing that game can give them, the 2 versus the 3.
Correct. I just call it crazy. I don't know how the NFL didn't move Tennessee to Jacksonville to Sunday night. And I only say that is because I think the Detroit Green Bay is a better story type deal because of Detroit. And obviously Green Bay winning 5 in a row. And obviously, we just have to shove Aaron Rodgers down everybody's throat in prime time. But there's still a chance that game doesn't matter. Whereas
it will matter.
It don't matter for Green Bay regardless, but there's a chance it's on a win and in game. Whereas Tennessee, Jacksonville is the surefire thing.
Correct. We'll get there. The Titans versus the Jaguars is for the division. Oh, are you saying that should have been the Sunday night game?
Yes.
But it's the Saturday night game. It's still on its own.
I get it, but I
think the issue really is that if Ryan Tannehill is there, and granted, Ryan Tannehill isn't a crazy name, but I think if Ryan Tannehill is there, Derrick Henry is healthy, I think we're in a different situation. Josh Dobbs getting the start, Derrick Henry not playing last week. I think, Derrick Henry, obviously I would assume that he plays this week, but I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I think that game has dud potential. Like, I don't know if you want to end the NFL season on a game that can be a dud. And I think Packers-Lions, obviously, there's a chance that it might not mean anything. But Green Bay wants to go win that game to make sure that they're in. I don't think the Lions are going to roll over, even if they don't have a shot at going to the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to roll over. But my point is, if you have that game Sunday night and Seattle wins before that, unless you're a Packers fan, you're not emotionally invested in that game anymore. Because I think the majority of the country would, if that game matters, the winner gets in, it's a true win and in game, the majority of the country is going to pull for Detroit in that game. If Detroit is eliminated going into – my point is, if you switch those 2 games, you also make the Seattle game a little bit more suspenseful. Because if
Green Bay wins, Seattle game doesn't matter.
I think in reality, they should have played those games both at the same time so that nobody can scoreboard watch and everybody plays as hard. But I just don't know if you end the season on Titans Jags, because I really think even if, let's say, the Seahawks win and the Lions are out, I still think Lions Packers is 100% better than Titans Jags.
Could be a better game, but like I just
Oh,
said, it's not like it takes so much away from the game.
all right. Titans, Jaguars. I think you guys realize this. I think you know where I'm going here. Dougie P, Trevor Lawrence. Listen, I'm a Jaguars fan, guys. Like the Jaguars are like the Penn State to my Georgia. Like I'm a Jaguars fan. I root for the They're my AFC team. I'm an Eagles fan, obviously, first at heart. But Doug Peterson brought this city a Super Bowl, and I've been on Trevor Lawrence since he's been a pro and all the stuff he had to deal with. So go Jags, go Jags.
You being a Jags fan is way less blasphemous than you being a Georgia fan.
Why is it blasphemous?
Because you front runner Georgia, that's why.
That's not what happened, though. I was on Georgia before the season started.
Right, but it was before the season. It was before the season where you knew they had a loaded team. So nobody picked them to win the national championship.
True at all.
Everybody picks Alabama to win the national championship. Yeah. Like
Georgia was the number 5.
Like it's not a rags to riches story. Okay, so they were a top 5 team. It's not like with Jacksonville. We're like, okay, like we're like me and you have a sentimental connection to Dougie P. That's understandable. We all like Trevor Lawrence. It's just it's
you want to hear
near the same thing.
I don't want to give you the full story of how I start following Georgia and how I start liking Georgia because you don't understand it. And that's fine. My uncle lives in Buford, Georgia, became a Georgia Bulldogs fan after the whole Joe Paterno thing. I visited him in that February before that season, climbed Stone Mountain with them. We talked about Georgia football. We talked about all the players. And I picked Georgia to win the national championship in that August. It wasn't like I just start following Georgia because they won a national championship. I picked them before the season started when no one was picking Georgia. You guys all laughed me out the building and said, Kirby Smart will never get over the hump versus Alabama. And I picked them and it happened. It worked. And yes, did I fall in love with the team because of Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, who both became Philadelphia Eagles? Of course I did. Of course I fell in love with that team. I'm sorry that's how it happened. You can call me a front runner all you want, but it wasn't like I became a Bama fan or Ohio State fan, which are constantly the top 2 teams in the country. I became a Georgia fan because my uncle lives right by the stadium and is a fan of the team.
I wouldn't say front runner's not the term I use. I feel like you still wouldn't if Georgia would have lost the SEC championship game and didn't make the playoff last year. I don't think you'd still have the same love for Georgia. But I get it though. You were on them. I'm sure they made you a lot of money last year, and now they're back at it. But I think it's a lot more you being proved right than it is, you just sticking on this team that's good. Like I don't think that. Like I think you were on them before the hype was there. Yes, they were a good team, but obviously no one last year saw them being as great as they were.
Okay, that's fine. Just as long as you admit the fact that I didn't front run them, but whatever.
No,
let's get back to.
I didn't say that.
Let's get back to what we're talking about as far as Jacksonville. I'm rooting for the Jaguars. I'm a Trevor Lawrence guy. I'm a Doug EP guy. Does Josh Dobbs win this game?
No. Jaguars. Give me the Jags to win this one. It's very unfortunate what's going on over there in Tennessee. Obviously, they don't trust Malik Willis to do anything because he hasn't done anything all season. He's been given a few different opportunities over there. And, I actually like Josh Dobbs. Obviously in Pittsburgh, he didn't look great. Browns preseason, he showed me that he has heart. He plays with a lot of heart. And I think he's definitely going to try hard. He's going to do everything that Mike Vrabel asks of him. But I think the Jags are at this point the more talented team, and I think Doug Peterson he's going to have them ready to go. And I like the Jags win the AFC South.
Freddie, I tagged you because you keep blowing up my DMs knowing I'm in the middle of a damn show. That's why I tagged you. Atlanta versus Tampa Bay doesn't matter. Tampa Bay clinched the division.
It doesn't matter, but they're playing everybody though.
Who cares?
I don't believe that for a second.
The Colts versus the Texans don't matter because they both stink.
True.
The Jets, we'll talk about Jets, Dolphins, and Patriots, Bills for a minute. I don't want to get too far into a lot of these games. I really don't. I think I think the Buffalo New England game will be super interesting to see how Buffalo responds to everything that's going on. That's the only interest I have in that game. Buffalo is a much better football team than New England. I don't know how that's going to play out, though. I'm sure the team's not practicing much. I don't know. I feel like that's a really weird scenario to be in, to be forced to play while your brother's in the hospital. So that's
I think them getting a more positive, prognosis on where he's at and things like that. I think that's going to be the emotional strength that they need. I think they go out there and I think they roll that game. Normally, I know divisional games are tight. New England's obviously fighting for a playoff spot, but I think, Buffalo's like, hey, we have to go win this game for our brother. I think, and I don't want to make this stake because the severity of the situation, but I mean, you could almost think of that game last week as Buffalo's should be fairly fresh. They played half a quarter of football and they haven't played really in 2 weeks, and obviously they had so much going on. So it's not like it's just some luxury, but they should be fresh and ready to go on that one.
I want to give the Miami Dolphins some credit for actually sitting Tua down for the rest of the season. Skylar Thompson looks like he's starting this week. The Jets should beat Miami, and I think I'll tell you why that will matter in a minute. What do you guys think in that one? Jets, Miami. I like the Jets in that one.
I mean, Jets are going back to Zach Wilson. I believe that the quote was something, through hell and high water, we're back in Zach. So they've made their choice, and that's what they're going to go with. To Gene's point, I do credit Miami with, I don't want to say giving up on the season, but pretty much saying we value his long-term health over winning this game Sunday and potentially the playoffs.
Well, shit, it's about time. I'm not giving them any credit.
Correct. Well, I hate Miami.
Yeah, but it's it's still the right move now, regardless of how awful they've handled it. In hindsight, is his first possibly 2 concussions this year. I agree with Gene. I think the Jets pull that out somehow. I think it's a complete and total collapse for Miami down the stretch, but I think the Jets find a way to get that done somehow.
Okay. So I'm just giving you my 2 cents. I have a lot of thoughts on a couple of these games coming up. Minnesota versus Chicago really doesn't matter. Carolina versus New Orleans does not matter. Here's where I want to skip around for a minute, okay? Before I get to
1 second. Does Minnesota hold the tiebreaker over San Fran?
I think San Fran holds tiebreaker over Minnesota.
All right, so I mean they have the same record, so I mean technically they're still playing for the 2 seed. But all right, I just wanted to clarify. Keep going.
I think that the Carolina versus the Saints really don't matter. I want to skip around here for a minute, okay? And I'll get back to this in a second. Actually, you know what? Let's go right into it. I think, and I'm just going to break this down, what needs to happen. The Buffalo Bills need to beat the New England Patriots, and the Jets need to beat the Miami Dolphins. For the Cleveland Browns to have the opportunity to stop Mike Tomlin's streak and stop Pittsburgh from making the playoffs. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the team that makes the playoffs. I think they make it over. I think the Jets beat Miami, and I think the Bills beat New England, and I think the Steelers end up beating the Browns. It's a 2.5-point spread, but I think the Steelers end up beating the Browns. Mike Tomlin continues his streak, goes 9-8, and makes the playoffs as the 7th seed, only to get the shit kicked out of him versus Kansas City. But hey, listen, keep the streak alive, right?
I think keeping the streak alive is, listen, he'll make a playoff game. He'll get Kenny Pickett a playoff game under his belt. And, there's nothing bad that comes out of it. Cleveland, I can't figure out. I just can't. The weeks I pick them to win, they look like dog shit. And then I'm like, all right, they played awful last week, so I'm picking against them. Then they go out and play well and beat somebody. I don't know what's going on in Cleveland. I mean, Kachuk can comment on it way better than I can, but I can't figure them out. Pittsburgh's in a similar boat. There's weeks I pick them where I think they're going to be at home and they're going to look strong, and they don't look great, and they go on the road and beat somebody they're not supposed to. But that's just par for the course. if you've looked at my NFL record this year, you've pretty much figured out that I haven't figured much out this year. So I do agree with Gene. I don't know. That's another game. I don't know. They try to play all these games at the same time and they make weird flexes. But I mean, I think that's the nasty divisional game. I'd almost rather see that than Detroit Green Bay at the end. But I think I agree. I think Pittsburgh gets it done somehow, some way. I'm assuming Cleveland's playing everybody, or has anybody said they're not playing?
Yeah. Everybody's playing in Cleveland. They're actually Myles Garrett was, he had his press conference yesterday, and they're embracing the fact that, obviously this season has been a disappointment, and they're not making the playoffs, but they said anytime they have a chance to ruin, one of their rivals' season and not have them make the playoffs, they want to embrace that and they want to be all in the rivalry. And to be honest, I don't know the last time that Cleveland swept Pittsburgh. So I think this game, although obviously it's not, playoffs aren't at stake for us, but I think this game does mean something to those guys, and I think they want it. They want it bad.
NFC North's a nasty division, man. I mean, these games don't matter.
Who wins the division? Bengals or Ravens? I'm going Bengals.
Bengals. Lamar Jackson's not going to play. I mean, that's
Lamar's not playing again?
Did they rule him out?
He didn't practice again today. I find it hard to believe he hasn't practiced in 3 weeks. He's going to go through walkthrough tomorrow and play.
Yeah, I'm so shocked that Lamar Jackson is doing this.
Listen, I mean, are you though? For him, though, like, how do you not? Like, honestly,
I was going to say, I almost wonder, like, had he had a secure contract, is he playing right now?
Yeah.
John Harbaugh basically all but said that.
Like, I mean,
I'm just probably going to leave all that stuff alone and focus on the game when he was asked that.
Well, I mean,
if
what do you want him to say, though?
If he's sitting on $200 million, I think that he risks whatever he has going on. But I forgot, he has a knee injury, right?
Yeah,
that's what's going on with him. So the
last thing you want to see is,
that's the last thing you see is go out there and hurt.
The last thing you want to see is him scrambling to see the whole RG3 thing replay again, like that. It's just, and I think again, I think to your point, I think if he signed his extension, and he's 70%, he probably plays this week. Go out and try to steal a division from Cincinnati, but he's not. So he's gonna be like, I'm gonna rest for one more week, and then we'll play our playoff game next week, and we'll see where it is.
I don't even know if he plays in the playoffs, man.
Nah, he's gonna play in the playoffs.
I hope so.
I don't think there's any shot he plays Sunday.
What's up, Key?
I just feel like the Ravens really butchered this whole situation, and it's
No, they didn't.
They did. They really did. They're in a horrible situation right now. Obviously, you built your whole offense around Lamar Jackson.
You have to give him $50 million a year. You have to.
You have to.
You do.
You told me that the Eagles have to give Jalen Hurts $50 million a year.
I would say
it's not.
Eagles
are like almost parallel. It's almost a parallel situation.
I'll take the Eagles situation over Baltimore's all day.
All right. I got the Steelers making the playoffs. Who makes the 7th seed in the AFC?
I think it's the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins. Even with Skylar Thompson, they fought last week against the Patriots. I know the Patriots aren't great, but they kept fighting that game. And I don't understand. I know the Jets lost last week to the Seahawks, but Zach Wilson is not going to win you a meaningful football game. You already showed that you didn't believe in him last week, and now you think he's just going to come in a week after and go beat that Dolphins team. I think they are obviously. I love Salah over there, but I just think that Dolphins team. It sounds absolutely wild to say, but I trust Skylar Thompson more than I don't trust Zach Wilson. So I think the Dolphins win that game. I think they stay in, and I think the Browns beat the Steelers too. I really do.
Okay. Who gets the number 1 seed? Oh, sorry, Bill. Who gets the 7th seed?
I'm going to say Pittsburgh because I think the Jets-Dolphins game ends in a 6-6 tie.
It's funny. So who gets the number 1 seed in the NFC?
Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles.
I asked that question because the Giants, Brian Dable said, we're playing everybody.
He's full of shit too.
I don't care. I don't care.
But hold on.
Play everybody.
I don't care either because Jalen's going to play.
14?
Because they're not going to play. Bro, you might see Saquon Barkley like the pregame show warming up, and then he's going to go into the locker room. He's putting on sweats. Exactly. He ain't playing. Daniel Jones ain't playing. No. It's 14.
Jalen Hurts is playing too.
Correct. You know damn well if the Giants were playing everybody, that spread's not 14 points.
I got a fix for y'all. A fix is happening. I know it's happening. I can see it happening before it happens. I have a fix for y'all. We're going to pass. The Eagles are going to win. They're going to win this 14 points. There's a fix that's going to happen Sunday. Baker Mayfield and the Los Angeles Rams are going to win that football game at Seattle so that Detroit-Green Bay game turns into a playoff game and everybody's
good. I hope they do.
It's going to happen. I tell you, watch this. Ready? Geno Smith completes a 40-yard pass to DK Metcalf. Hold on. Holding. Offense. 10-yard penalty. Replay first down.
Can Seattle get in still or no?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in
Seattle
right now. They're in right now.
If they win, what does it matter? They're not really in. Because if Green Bay wins, they're out. Seattle gets in if they win and Detroit wins. No, they get in if they win and Detroit wins. I don't know why I was going to say if Detroit and Green Bay lose, but they can't both.
So Seattle wins, they need Detroit to win, and then they're in. If Seattle loses, then the winner of Detroit Green Bay is in.
Yep.
Correct.
I mean, listen, if you're tinfoil hatting this, which again we've talked about the last couple of weeks, happens way too often with the NFL. I mean, G might be right.
Guys,
Baker's looked like a new player the last 2 weeks.
I almost picked every game. Cottrell was 13 out of 14 picking NFL football games last week. Almost hit a 14-game parlay. You know why? You know why he did that? Because he's really good and knowledgeable about. No, he knew it was best for the NFL.
Yep.
Call it like it is.
I had the Saints money line just because I knew
it was going to happen.
Yep, absolutely.
At the end of the day, I don't mean to be smart when I say this, and I think the playoffs it happens a lot less. But I think because the NFL knows everyone's tuning in for the playoffs, and there's markets everywhere. But I'm telling you right now, don't think that there's not a red bat phone in some of those locker rooms. Hey, you're losing today. Seattle's gone, bro. I'm telling you. Seattle's going to lose that game. I might throw 500 on the Rams money line.
Jesus.
I might.
What are they right now?
They're plus 6.5.
Oh my goodness.
What's the money line?
Plus 235.
That's it.
Look, listen, the rest of the games don't matter unless you get to Detroit, Green Bay. Everything else doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. San Fran's going to destroy Arizona because they're still playing for the 1 seed at that moment. Dallas is going to lose to Washington because nothing's going to matter. I'm telling you that right now. The Eagles will be up 45-0 at halftime, and Dallas is going to sit everybody, and you're going to watch Sam Howell beat the Cowboys. Mark that shit down. That's going to be a weirdo. 88% of the money's on Dallas, and they're 5-point favorites over Sam Howell. You tell me how the hell that happens. 88% of the money is on Dallas. They're 5-point favorites over Sam Howell. Yeah, give me Washington money line. Dude, I'll tell you right now, if someone's got $100, they don't mind burning. $100 on Washington and the LA Rams money line. Go win yourself $1,500.
And if you're feeling froggy, throw Jags in there.
Well, that's minus 6.5.
Oh, I didn't realize the spread was that high.
Lions Packers. I got news for you guys. I'm telling you right now, it sets up to be a playoff game, and everyone and their mother is going to be. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm stupid. The Packers are playing great. I think that I'm not kidding. I think the Detroit Lions go into Green Bay, and that's a field goal game one way or the other. I can't tell you they're going to win the game, but I'm telling you right now, that Dan Campbell team is going to fight, claw, scratch, and guess what that team can do? They can run the football. I'm not Aiden. I don't know.
Green Bay struggles against it. Trust, dude. I'm all over Dan Campbell that game. I will be pulling for Detroit hard in that game.
Winners win. Aiden Hutchinson proved that to you. I tell you, everybody talks smack about him being the number 2 pick in the draft. You're real silent right now.
Hey, he's had a real good year.
Oh, he's a bust. He's not even the top 5 defensive end in the draft. You dummy. Are you kidding me? Are you watching this?
7.5 sacks,
Winners
3 picks.
Win. Aiden Hutchinson brings a winning culture to that Detroit Lions team, and they're 8-8. Shocked. I'm not. Let's get into pick 'em. Cottrell, you're not in last place. Okay, Shally, you're in last place. You're picking at about a 33% ratio at this point. I'm
freaking these 2 draws. I mean, it's like 40%. It's not much better.
So start us off for your picks this week, and then we're getting into the awards. So if you're listening, stay tuned because we need your votes in the comments for the awards. I see 14 of you guys. Don't go anywhere. Make it 15. Share the show right now. Tell them the awards are starting because our awards are nuts.
Better than the ESPYs. Tune in.
Better than the ESPYs. We got good ones. And Shally's got a famous line that started at the beginning of the year that we made into an award. So we'll see.
It's like the People's Choice Award now.
Exactly. Shally, give us your pick.
All right, here we go. Mercifully, Uncle Shally's Super Sunday Fade Corner is coming to an end. We go back to the record books. 10 years from now, we're still doing this show. We're going to wipe this year out like it didn't happen. That being said, though, I'm determined not to come in last place. I'm going to put Cottrell in the basement this week. Here are my 3 picks. You can bet them. You can fade them. You'll probably win money. Well, one way anyway. First game, Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Atlanta minus 4.5. Tampa Bay can say all they want. They're going to play people. They're not. This is going to be the same case as the Giants. You'll see everybody warm up. Maybe you get a series out of Tom Brady and Mike Evans and Godwin and all them. They're banged up. They're not playing. It's going to be backups galore for Tampa Bay. Don't get me wrong. Atlanta could still find a way to lose this game because they're terrible. But I'll go Atlanta minus 4.5 at home, win their season finale, go into the offseason and wondering how they're going to make their team better. Second game, Baltimore at Cincinnati. We talked about this at length already. Lamar Jackson's not going to play. Cincinnati's playing for this to lock up their position as a 3 seed. We already mentioned as well. This is almost like coming off a bye for Cincinnati. They played a half a quarter football in the last 2 weeks. I think that offense being fresh, Baltimore not having their best player again. Baltimore struggled. Cincinnati's defense is playing better. They're going to slow down the Baltimore run game with Dobbins and Edwards. And they're still not clear who's going to start for Baltimore because it looks like Taylor Huntley still might not be healthy and ready to go, even though he came back to practice today. I like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all those guys being fresh at home, lock up their position, and get ready for the playoffs. Cincinnati minus 7. My lock of the week, I agree with Cottrell on this. Buffalo minus 7 at home against New England. I think with everything that's going on this week, they've been at the complex, they've been practicing, the emotional responsibility they're going to feel to Hamlin. That stadium is going to be absolutely crazy. I think there's no way in hell Buffalo doesn't win this game, and they don't win this game by a lot. They're minus 7. To quote Gene, I think this is a game you bet minus 14, minus 17. I think Buffalo blows the doors off New England at home. I think they rally around each other. I think going out and playing is probably the best thing for them at this point. They can go out, relax, do their thing, think about anything other than Hamlin for a couple hours. And I think they know behind the scenes. I think it's already been decided what we already said. I think they know if they win this, they're the 1 seed and they get a week off to kind of regroup and emotionally, get back to where they need to be. Buffalo minus 7, lock of the week. I think they destroy New England. Those are my 3 picks. Last 3 of the year. No pressure, Cottrell. You slip up this week, you're going in the dungeon, bro.
That's fine, because you know what? I'm going to hop right into mine. I know Gene wants to go last. Funny enough, we are exactly against each other in a game. Give me Tampa Bay plus 4.5 at Atlanta. I think, I would assume that the Bucks, they probably won't play everybody for long. But Desmond Ridder hasn't shown me, any bit of confidence that should be had in him. And it's not all his fault either. I know Kyle Pitts is out and all that, but I mean, this will be a kind of a moral victory for Atlanta. Obviously, Tampa Bay has already secured their spot, winning the division, going to the playoffs. But I like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's culture. I think they're going to fight. They're going to get Atlanta out of there. I think they win that game outright. Second game, Gene. I know how much against you are betting on bad teams, but I'm gonna bet on a bad team that has heart. Give me the Houston Texans plus 2.5 at the Colts. I think this is a game that the Texans will win because I know they're still fighting for the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick. Because they're fighting with the Chicago Bears, it really doesn't matter what happens because Chicago's not drafting a quarterback number 1. So you're going to be in good shape there regardless if you win or lose. So you're not worried about draft positioning too much. I think getting a division win to end the year, I think that'll be a good stepping stone for that Houston Texans team. That's been such a disaster, but that's just a teaser for later on. And then my last pick, give me my Cleveland Browns plus 2.5 at the Steelers, winning the game. I like them at the money line, but of course, give me the points. Plus 2.5. I think that's going to seal it for me. We're going to keep Shally in the basement, and we're going to finish second this season, although it's been one to forget for sure. But those are my 3 picks for the week. Confident in them. I think we got a 3-0 week coming. Should have been 3-0 last week, but, the Jets. I'll just say that, the Jets. The goddamn Jets.
Sounds like an 0-3 week to me, bro.
I got stud picks for you guys, and they're all dogs. They're all like ugly picks. You're not gonna like
dog. Yeah,
that's okay.
The dogs.
First on the docket, give me the Rams plus 6.5 over Seattle. They're gonna win the game outright. Play a money line. It makes too much sense for the NFL to have a Detroit versus Green Bay playoff game on Sunday night. Baker Mayfield's been playing pretty well with Coach McVay. The resurgence continues. Cam Akers looks great. I think that the Rams win this football game and Seattle goes home weeping. Give me the Rams plus 6.5. I'll take the under 38.5 in the Dolphins versus Jets. You got Skylar Thompson versus Zach Wilson. Yeah, I'll take the under in that game. You can make it under 33.5. I'd still take the under. Both those teams stink offensively. And then last on the docket, 88% of the money is on the Dallas Cowboys -5 versus Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders. Ron Rivera cannot wait to get fired from that situation. He was asked in a press conference this week, are you going to play Sam Howell if you're eliminated? And he goes, oh, we could be eliminated? Yeah, if the Packers beat the Vikings at 4:00, you guys are eliminated. Well, guess what? They're eliminated. Sam Howell rallies the troops and gets a big W for the Washington Commanders as they beat the Cowboys outright. They look at the scoreboard at halftime. They see the Eagles are up 28-0 over the Giants, and the Cowboys start resting players and pack it in. Commanders for the win. Those are my picks. Awards time, fellas. Everybody in the comments, get ready for your awards. We are starting them now. We got to start them now. We got everybody waiting. First on the docket, Cottrell will take the honors. Nominees for Best Team of the Year.
So, Best Team of the Year, and just to keep in mind too, a lot of these awards, we're going to be across, plenty different sports, men's, women's, college, pros, doesn't matter. We got you covered here. Our 3 nominees, we got the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs. And obviously, they won the championship at the beginning of 2022, and they haven't lost one game in the year 2022. Second, we got the team that I picked to win the Stanley Cup, the Colorado Avalanche. Obviously, they were dominant all regular season, dominated the postseason, and then they were hoisting the trophy at the end. It was really, no pun intended. It was a wire-to-wire year for the Colorado Avalanche. They were the best at the beginning. They ended up on top. And then our third nominee, we got the Oklahoma Sooners softball team. Obviously, we know how dominant they were. Again, there was wire-to-wire finish coming into the year. You knew that they were the favorites to win it. And at the end of the year, they were hoisting the NCAA trophy to show that they're the best softball team in the country and one of the most dominant that we've really, truly ever seen. So those are our 3 nominees for best team of the year.
Yo, Eric Rosenblum coming through with fire, the U.S. Ryder Cup team. That's actually a really good answer. We didn't think about that one. I'm going Georgia. I think I'm going Georgia. They didn't lose a football game in the year 2022. They boast one of the best defenses ever to play the game. I'm going Georgia. This should be a layup. Sweep it. Roll it off the board.
I don't want to say it's a layup. I mean, Oklahoma has been just as dominant in their sport. And Colorado was clearly the best team in the NHL last year. Don't want to say it's a layup. That being said, I'm going to agree with Gene. They won the national championship. Won the national championship last year. I mean, I hate doing this, but they haven't lost since, and then they're going to play for another title on Monday night. So it's hard not to pick Georgia.
Control, make it
so
sweep.
It's funny because obviously we knew we were going to be doing these awards this week, and if the clock didn't strike midnight for those damn Ohio State Buckeyes, the Oklahoma Sooners would get my vote here. But that didn't happen, so I got the Georgia Bulldogs. That you go undefeated all of 2022, but man, that's a very impressive feat.
Georgia Bulldogs. I see them all in there. Gene with the brooms, UGA, Kyle Edwards, Anthony Cobbs. Out of those 3, give me the Bulldogs. Lady Gamecocks out of South Carolina deserve a mention.
Absolutely, they do.
I'm not going to lie, man. Rosenblum had a good suggestion.
100%. I didn't think about that. That was really good. So we go from the best team to the worst team. Now, I could break down both of these. Houston Texans, last year, they have the number 2 pick? They're going to have the number 1 pick this year. Worst team in football again. The team got 2 wins. But, hey, listen, in the same city, you have the Houston Rockets. Last place last year, last place this year. Houston Rockets are tied for the lowest amount of wins so far this year and finished with the worst record last year. Houston Rockets. I don't remember, but I will say this. Houston, both teams in Houston have played competitive games. You know who didn't play competitive games? That Washington Nationals team down the stretch. That team was not competitive. They didn't win games at all. I like it. The Bishop Sycamore Award. I like it. Worst team out of these 3, Texans, Rockets, and the non-competitive Washington Nationals.
This is tough. I mean, there's some sympathy here with certain things. Houston's better than they were last year. And
Which one?
The Rockets, sorry. And the only sympathy I'm going to give them is we know what they're doing. They're in the middle of a rebuild. I feel like the same thing about the Nationals. Soto was just the last domino to fall with that last year, but they'd pretty much given away everybody else over the last 2 years. They were trying to re-sign him and build around him. That obviously didn't work out because he wasn't dumb and didn't want to stay there. And I feel like just the way Houston the Texans have handled everything, with the Watson debacle and everything else. I'm giving my vote to the Houston Texans.
I'll go second. This way, Control has at least and maybe we'll go to the listeners. I'm going the Washington Nationals. That team stunk. Down the stretch, they were a layup. I'll tell you right now, I think a group of college kids could have beat that team. They were awful. I don't know what Washington was doing down the stretch after they traded Juan Soto and Josh Bell. They were just trying to lose games. So I'm going to Nationals. The 28-man roster was pathetic.
I'm going to actually have to side with Bill on this one. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. I think Bill made a good point about the whole rebuild. Obviously, the Texans are in a rebuild, but you were in a situation where you had Deshaun Watson and you went 4-12, and I understand that was in 2020, but you were in that situation while you had your franchise quarterback. Since then, yes, you've gained some picks after trading them away and all that. You won 2 games this year. You were horrible last year. You know, obviously you got a whole bunch of other things going on with your ownership and that whole debacle of what's going on in the scenes and how he handled the Deshaun Watson situation and all of that. I just think as a collective whole, the Texans, not only were they bad on the field, but their leadership groups outside of the field were bad. Their front office made bad decisions. I mean, the handling of Brandon Cooks that's still on that roster. You know, it's just I would argue the Houston Texans have been the worst team since this decade so far. In the 2020s, the Houston Texans have been continuously horrible, and I'm giving them the award this year.
Okay. So the Texans win that one. We didn't need fan voting. Bill, this is on you. Male athlete of the year.
Male athlete of the year. We have the reigning two-time defending NBA MVP, the Joker. We have Mr. Do-It-All, the Joker. We have Mr. Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs, debatably the best quarterback on the planet. And then we have the newly crowned American League home run leader, record holder, Aaron Judge from the New York Yankees. So you got to – it's a little tough because it depends what you want to weigh here. I don't know. I'll let you guys pick first. I'll go last on this one.
Okay. Kittrell, start us off.
I'm gonna go Aaron Judge. I think he had quite literally one of, if not, the best AL season we've ever seen. You know, for him to get that home run record, him being as close as he was to the Triple Crown. I mean, you hit, what was the final number? 64? Is that what he ended at? 64 home runs?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
And to still bat, over 300 and bring in that many RBIs, like that's just such an incredible season. I'm gonna go with Aaron Judge on this one.
Okay, so I'm pulling something up real quick, and I just wanted to kind of give a little premise for my answer. I know where I'm going 100%. So last year, Patrick Mahomes finished number 3 for MVP. This year, he's the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. I'm going with the best player on this list, the best quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes does it all. Lost his star receiver before the season started and is doing it again. He's the MVP with Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Give me Patty Mahomes, man. Patrick Mahomes. Bill, do we get a fan vote? What are we getting?
We're not getting a fan vote.
Okay.
I think as great as Mahomes is, if Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt, he's not the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. He needed a little help. I'm going to put my vote behind the guy that just won it and broke a bunch of records and has the MVP already secured. I think with the monumental year that he had and doing it, for lack of a better term, cleanly, there's no controversy behind it. I'm going to have to go with the dreaded Yankee. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge.
Just wanted to post this. Anthony Cobbs. Curry won the chip. Finals MVP. I don't know, man. Maybe should have been on the list. I don't know.
Maybe you give him Curry was on the best team. If he was the best player, you win MVP. I can't have a male athlete that didn't win MVP. I'm sorry.
All right, so it looks like Aaron Judge wins this one. But okay, let's move on. Kittrell, is back to you, my friend.
All right, so giving the woman some love here. On the left, you got A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces. She won a ring this year. She was the regular season MVP, finals MVP, and she was the defensive player of the year. You got Katie Ledecky, who's always incredible. She won some gold at the World Championships this year. She's even moved her record in the 800-meter free even further out. She won gold in the 800 and 1500 at the World Championships. And then you got Iga Swiatek, number 1 tennis player in the world on the women's side. She won 37 straight matches in 2022. She won the French Open. She won the U.S. Open. And she's just been as dominant as can be. So those are your 3 nominees for female athlete of the year.
I'll go first here. Can you do me a favor? I just want you to do me one quick favor. I want you to read off No. I want you to do me a favor, Control.
She wants out of this category so quickly.
No. I'll go first. Control, read off the first thing you said about Asia Wilson, the first 3 lines. I just want to hear it again.
I don't remember what the first 3 were.
You said Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
You said won a championship. And you said what?
MVP.
MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and won a championship? Give me Asia Wilson. Come on now.
You
want me to go next, Bill, or you going?
I'll go. So this comes down to 2 people for me. This comes down to Wilson and Schweitek. Not taking anything away from Katie Ledecky. I think this being a non-Olympic year kind of hurts her here. All she really had were the national championships, and some of the best swimmers weren't even there. So, of course, she dominated. She would have dominated if they were there, don't get me wrong. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the meme floating around. It's like the 24 best times ever recorded in the women's 800. She has all 24 of them. Just wild shit. But I think with it being a non-Olympic year hurts her a little bit. I think Wilson had a great year. She's debatably the best female player on the planet right now. But I still think you can make a case for that. And that's why I'm going to go with Iga. She won 2 majors last year, 37 matches in a row, almost broke Serena's record. And she is undoubtedly the world number 1 in female tennis right now. Kind of came out of nowhere too. She was ranked 16th the year before. I'm going with Iga. I'm gonna give her my vote for this year. I think she deserves it.
Patrol, we going to fan vote?
We are not going to the fan vote. I really want to get the fans involved, but I gotta go Asia Wilson here. That's as close to a perfect season as you can get. Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. You win the championship, and you get Finals MVP. I just don't know how you get much better than that. Iga, of course, had such a Iga had such a great year. But I think it's different. I think it'd be closer to be comparing her winning the Grand Slam as opposed to just winning the 2. So I got to go Asia Wilson here.
Asia Wilson with the W. Next on the docket, Comeback Player of the Year. I love that I have this one. Saquon Barkley. Freddie, if you're paying attention, Saquon Barkley, Comeback Player of the Year. Kid's an absolute stud, coming off multiple injuries to lead the Giants to playoffs for the first time in forever. You got Justin Verlander coming back from injury to win the AL Cy Young. And you got my man Muhammad Ibrahim coming back from ACL tear last year to being the number 1 rusher in college football. All 3 of these are great picks. So I will go last on this one. Start us off, shall we?
I'm going with Barkley. Just
Saquon.
I think what he's battled through the last 2 years. I hate voting for a Giant. I'm sure as hell not voting for freaking Justin Verlander though. So,
what is Cy Young?
I don't care. He's a cheater. He's a scumbag, and I don't like Astros, so I'm not voting for him.
But now he's a Met, so it's even worse.
Even worse. Not that I like voting for a Giant either, but he's literally. You look at how Barkley started his career, and then literally had two straight years derailed by injuries. He looks like his normal self again. He's one of the top 5 running backs in the league, and you have to really say them having him healthy all year is one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason that they're going to be a playoff team this year. So I will go with Saquon Barkley.
Control.
I'm going to go with Justin Verlander. Look, I understand, all the injuries and stuff that Saquon had to battle through. I understand how tough it was for Mo Ibrahim to miss, all of last season, and him to come back and still be as dominant as he was before he left. There's only one guy here that won or is going to win the MVP of their respective sport, and that's Justin Verlander. So how can I not go with the guy who was quite literally the best at his position in his sport to win this award? I got to go Justin Verlander here.
He's not going to win MVP.
He won AL Cy Young. I'm saying like that's the MVP for pitchers. That's what I'm getting at here.
Fans, if y'all, all 16 of y'all listening, the first person that gives the answer, that will be the winner. Because I'm going Muhammad Ibrahim. Guy ran for 1,665 yards after an ACL tear in his senior year at Minnesota. You talk about a comeback player of the year. This man's going to get drafted. Whoa, Barkley was quick. They didn't play, man. CR Media, oh my Lord, bang, bang, bang. Barkley. Listen, I wanted to get y'all involved, and I really wanted to shout out to Muhammad Ibrahim. Damn, I think the fans are all on Saquon. All right, let's move on. Saquon Barkley is your winner. Bill, this is you.
Performance of the year. So we're going to go with we talked about this last week with Luka's history-making night, the 60, 21, and 10. NBA players are just going off the last 10 days. Donovan Mitchell scoring 71. Giannis had 55 last night. Clay had like 54, I think, the other night as well. But 60, 21, and 10 is a different level. Donovan Mitchell scored 71, but I mean, I think he had like 2 assists, and like 60, 21, and 10 is special. And 11. It's something you may never see again. And that's why it's up for performance of the year. Mbappe, World Cup final alone, hat trick, literally put the entire France team and entire country on his shoulders. I went head to head with Argentina for 120 minutes plus penalty kicks. Kid's only 23. He is the best player on the planet. And he has an absolute flair for the dramatic, and has already shown that he literally plays better in bigger games than he does when nobody's watching. He loves to show up in the big moments. Last one we have Cooper Kupp from the Super Bowl last year. I think he had 92 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. It's incredible when you look back at the year he had last year. Won the Triple Crown, capped it off with a Super Bowl performance. It is to come out of, I don't want to say obscurity, but everybody knew how great Cooper Kupp was, and he showed everybody that he had an extra level. Saved a great game for the end, for the Super Bowl when they needed it the most, and helped the Rams win their Super Bowl last year. So those are your 3 nominees for performance of the year.
Start us off. Who you picking?
I'm going last.
Oh, okay. Control?
I think Brandon said it best. Give me Mbappe. Hat trick in the final. And, quite literally definition, putting the team on your back. You put up 2 goals in the span of 3 minutes. You get the performance of the year for me.
What Luka did was special, right? What Mbappe did was special, but neither one of them, and I don't care if y'all think I'm nuts for saying this, neither one of them did that in a championship performance the way to win the championship, win the Super Bowl. He lost. Cooper Kupp. Hold on.
Gotcha.
Cooper Kupp was double teamed that entire last drive. The entire world knew the ball was going to Cooper Kupp, and he still scored the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. If you watch that game, everybody, the entire Bengals team was sticking Cooper Kupp, and he was still finding ways to catch that football. It didn't matter where you were placing him. There was no receivers. Odell Beckham Jr. was hurt, and Cooper Kupp just made it happen. 2 touchdowns in the second half to win the Super Bowl. I'm going Cooper Kupp here, guys. They won the Super Bowl. Championships matter.
If there's a team award, I would probably agree with Gene, but it's not. It's a Performance of the Year award. And I think Mbappe did it on even a bigger stage than the Super Bowl, did the World Cup final. You want to talk about all eyes on him? Everybody knew that France's offense runs through him. And to Cottrell's point, he scored 2 goals in a matter of 3 minutes to give France even a shot to win that game. They were down 2-0, getting dominated. Scored the first goal. His half volley goal was incredible. Tied up at 2 to force extra time. For me, it's Mbappe all the way.
See, Key, I thought Lucas should get some love. I was hoping if I went with Cooper Kupp, Bill would go with Luca, and then we would have a vote. But I
Hey,
knew
we're
as
talking
soon as Cottrell went with
regular
Mbappe,
season.
I knew we had no chance of winning anything besides soccer. It's okay.
One of these was unlike the other. Regular
biggest
season performance.
Biggest loser of the year. Loser. Cottrell, this is you, bro.
All right, so we got Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders. I mean, you got their stadium falling apart. You got his takes on how he treats people in the workplace, the sexual harassment claims that he lets go on, and Dan Snyder just all around terrible person. And it looks like he's gonna be, forced to sell, for lack of better terms. So Dan Snyder is one nominee. We got Antonio Brown, who essentially kicked the year off with his infamous leaving the field, throwing the peace sign, taking his jersey off, going out shirtless. This was like 2 days into 2022. And, since then, obviously, AB has completely lost his mind. He's posted crazy things with, Tom Brady's ex-wife now, Giselle. He's had his standoff with the police at his home. And, Antonio Brown just completely lost his mind in 2022. I mean, it was really before that, but 2022 really captivated it all for Antonio Brown. And then on the far right, we got Robert Sarver, who is another one who's just completely awful person. And he's being forced to sell his team as well, just because of how awful of a human being he is. So those are our three nominees. Biggest loser of the year.
I'll kick it off. It's Daniel Snyder. It's Daniel Snyder every year. Daniel Snyder this year, Daniel Snyder last year. Listen, Robert Sarver's awful, right? Antonio Brown's terrible. I think he's got CTE. I think he's got real serious mental issues. But Daniel Snyder's been doing this for 15 years, man. 15 years he's been a piece of shit. Every year, I'll vote Daniel Snyder this year. I'll vote Daniel Snyder next year. I'll vote Daniel Snyder until he sells the team and gets out of Washington. He is the biggest piece of garbage. Give me Daniel Snyder. I'll start there.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go second here. I got Daniel Snyder as well, and I really don't think this one is. I mean, it's got to be somewhat close just because of how bad Robert Sarver is, but Dan Snyder. I mean, just the cumulative amount of horrible stuff that comes out of Washington, every aspect of everything outside, like above their GM, it's just absolutely terrible. So got to go Dan Snyder here as well.
Yeah, this comes down to either Snyder or Sarver for me. I mean, it doesn't really matter what I pick, but this is a horrible decision to make because they're both scumbags. Antonio Brown has his own issues, and I agree with Gene. I've been saying it for a while. Antonio Brown has CTE. You can trace it clearly back to the perfect hit. He's not been the same since, player or person. He just needs to seek help. This gets tough for me in one little way, in that Snyder's been a dumpster fire for a while, and it's starting to all come out in public, and it's becoming more of a thing, and he's most likely going to be forced to sell. I lean Sarver, and this is going to sound horrible, but just please understand the way I'm going to say it. Daniel Snyder's a lot of like sexual harassment and stuff like that, and that's terrible. Sarver not only had that, he had the racist element to it as well. And his was so bad and became so bad that he already sold his team. So he went from zero to gone in the matter of 2 months once that report came out. I think Gene brought up a very funny point, though. The way this is going, Snyder will probably be on this list again next year. So we could probably all vote for him again next year. So I will take Sarver this year just for a kick.
Sarver, Snyder, they're both awful people. I get it.
I agree.
All right, I got this next one. Hold on, done.
Skip one.
Yep, I got fight of the year. Fight of the year: Glover versus Yuri, Poirier versus Chandler, and my personal favorite. I'll start the voting. 3-round fight, doesn't matter. Give me Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. That fight was a war. Hazmat went out and dominated the first round. You've seen the grit of a champion. Amazing fighter in Gilbert Burns came right back and battled for 3 rounds with Hamzat Chimaev. 2 of these fights were only 3-round fights, the Chandler Poirier and the Burns Chimaev. But I will go Burns Chimaev because I really, really loved that entire. RJ, you're terrible, bro. You're an awful person. Yo.
So you're going Burns Chimaev?
Yes.
Okay. So when we put these up earlier, it was a gut. I want to say gut instinct, but I had somewhere like strongly what I felt, and I'm going to stick with that because I felt like after I watched the fight, I felt like it was the fight of the year when we were recapping it on the show, and I'm going to stay there. Burns Chimaev was a very, very, very close second for me, but I'm going to stick with Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. I felt like when I watched that fight and I got done watching that fight live, I felt like that was the best fight I'd seen all year. So that's going to happen. I'm going to stick there, and I'm voting for that fight.
Control.
Well, this is great because I told you guys when it happened. 275, we saw fight of the year. We saw Yuri and Glover go at it. Glover was winning. Glover was winning. Yuri found a way to not only win, but he subbed Glover. Nobody saw that coming. I got to go Yuri versus Glover. Fan vote it is. First one to comment.
All 14 of y'all. I need someone to post it. Who wins it? Next vote.
Y'all saw it. Yuri Glover. Go ahead and
you go Burns.
Let's give them the wire-to-wire award. Vote. They earned it.
It was early.
It was early. Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. Come on, man.
Burns versus Chimaev. There you go.
Burns versus Chimaev. Let's go. All right. Next vote.
Christ.
Bill, this is on you.
What do I got? Best game of the year. We're going to go the semifinal that we just saw last Saturday. 42-41. Georgia hanging on against the suck eyes from Ohio State. The second game, we're going to go a game we already talked about at length too. We're going to go Argentina versus France, World Cup final. I'm on record saying it's the best soccer game I've ever watched, and I've watched a lot of soccer games. And then the last choice, pulling at the old heartstrings here for me and Gene, we're going to go game 1 of the World Series this year. Great game. Phillies prevailed. 3 super strong contenders here. Got something that just happened. Actually, these all happened in like the last quarter of the year, so that's pretty interesting as well. Now that I think about it.
Are you going first on this one?
No, I'll go last.
I'll go first.
Going last, bro.
I go first. I get to go last on the next one. I don't even know what it is, but I want to go last. But I'll go first here. All right. I think they got it right in the comments. Argentina versus France. It was not. I don't think this is just game of the year. Bill, you said it. That was the best soccer game I've ever seen in my life. You know, the Argentina going up 2-0, it being the 70th minute, and it's like, all right, let's see if Mbappe and company, if they can display the heart of a champion. And that's exactly what they did. And Mbappe put the team on his back. We saw everything that happened there. Messi in that game put up 2 goals, and they were going back and forth for the golden boot. Obviously, Mbappe ultimately got it, but that game was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I know who should win the award, but I'm going to make Bill do something he doesn't want to do.
It was funny. I just realized I was literally sitting here listening to Cottrell talk. I was like, I know what Gene's going to do and what Gene's going to make me do.
I'm going Phillies game 1. JT Real Muto in the right field porch. Give me the Phillies game 1. Okay, Bill.
That's why Gene's a scumbag.
Whoa, I'm a scumbag and the nicest person you know.
Scumbag.
He's putting you in Snyder and Sarver territory. Yikes.
Sell the team. All right. Listen, it just is what it is. Won't be the first time I get heat for something. It's the World Cup final for me. I think as great as game 1 was, it's a part of something. It's a part of a series. Whereas I feel like the best standalone game was France-Argentina. Phillies game means a lot to me, obviously, but again, it's not the best, World Cup game I've ever watched. It's not the best, whatever. It's literally the best soccer match I've ever watched. They did it on the biggest stage, and it was the final, and it was just an incredible match. So I'm going to go with France and Argentina.
France and Argentina win. We only have 3 awards left. Last call. Everybody gets one more. Cottrell, here you go.
All right, so
big time ones, big time awards.
You got the best moment of the year. You got Rich Strike coming in. They weren't even supposed to be in the Derby. They got entered late, 80-1 odds when they kicked off. Goes out, wins the Kentucky Derby. Then you got Tennessee Volunteers, known as a basketball school. They're going up against Alabama, the Alabama Crimson Tide, who, coming in, were number 1 team in the country, and against all odds, go down, beat Bama 52-49 in overtime. And, obviously kicks off the great season for the Volunteers. Obviously, it didn't end up how they wanted, but, it was just great game all around. And then you got the Machine hitting 2 home runs in the same game to get to the 700 home run mark and be a part of history. You got those are your 3 nominees. Best moment of the year.
I will go first on this one. Bill goes second, Cottrell third. And I'm going first because I understand how much it meant to all those people that were in that area. I'm going Tennessee. The Tennessee Vols finally getting over the hump, beating Alabama. The party that lasted for a day and a half after that game. The goalpost ended up in the river. At the end of the day, man, the Vols winning that football game meant so much to that entire state and that entire fan base. It was incredible. It was an incredible moment watching it. 52-49. The game was incredible. Could have been nominated for Game of the Year. Give me the Vols over Alabama. That's my pick.
This is like a low key, really tough one because it depends on how you define moment, I guess. Do you define it as in the fairy tale part of it? I mean, that would fit obviously Lucky Strike,
Rich Strike.
Rich Strike. I mean, sorry.
You're good.
To Gene's point, if you go with, see, I mean, I'm in the middle of talking. This scumbag just keeps interrupting me. If you go with not so much the feels, but the cool factor and like Gene said, I mean, these kids carried goalposts across campus and dumped them in the river. I mean, that's one of the reasons alone that I just love college football. You'll never see that in an NFL game. And then you have Albert at the end, which is by far has the most historical impact here in regards to what he did it in the same game. Everybody watching, man, oh man, 700 is such a hollowed number too, and he's only one of 3 people that have gotten there that are, that we think are clean. And then you got the little horse that couldn't, like Cottrell said, he shouldn't have been in the damn race. The horse had to get sick so he can run. I'm going to double back. I'm going to go with baseball. I'm going with Albert Pujols hitting 700.
You know why I didn't go with Rich Strike?
Because you thought I was going to.
I lost money. I didn't have Rich Strike. That's why I voted. All right, Cottrell, are we getting a fan vote or are you picking a winner?
The fans have to love when I go last here. Because
Yes.
we're getting another fan vote.
Ready, fan vote.
Rich Strike,
Fan
80-1, wasn't even supposed to be there. Obviously we were on the watch with Pujols, and it's a great accomplishment. Obviously, Tennessee and Bama, that was game of the week going in. Rich Strike wasn't supposed to be there, and against all odds, he got it done.
Brandon got Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols, very close. Joseph Jeffers type Vols win so quick. Spelled it wrong. Dude, I wanted Joseph Jeffers to win that, man. I voted for them specifically for my man, Joseph Jeffers.
The only thing that swayed me away from Tennessee was I feel like it should have been this long for a moment. I feel like I was rewarding the last decade of mediocrity coming from Tennessee. So that's why I couldn't vote for them.
Play of the year. Guys, I'm actually annoyed I got this one. I'm going last on the last one. Okay? I'm going last on the last. I'm annoyed I got this one, guys. I don't need
You're not
to
going
say
last on Boner of the Year.
I'm going last on Boner of the Year.
It's my award.
It's your category, but I'm going last. All right,
my
listen.
award.
Justin Jefferson with the most amazing catch I've ever seen. Contested catch. Look at this thing. It's play of the year. There's no doubt about it. What Ja Morant did in this dunk is disrespectful to Rudy Gobert. Disrespectful. Listen, I love the goal. Goal was incredible. McCarr's goal was insane. But this answer is so clearly Justin Jefferson. Like it should. The other two were just window dressing. They're just window dressing. That catch by Justin Jefferson was just the greatest thing I've ever seen on a football field. We talk about Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch, George Pickens' catch. We talk about those catches all the time. They weren't contested. This guy made a contested one-handed catch. I can't. Justin Jefferson's the answer.
Well, I think the one thing too is that in the Ja Morant dunk, he's dunking over Malik Beasley. Yeah, that's not Rudy.
Oh, that's not Rudy.
Yeah, so he's not going over a 7-footer. I give him a little bit more love if he was going over a 7-footer, but not the case there. Justin Jefferson, given the situation too, I want to say it was 4th and 17 at that point, 4th and 18, something like that.
All you do is knock the ball down.
Yep, that's all you got to do. Justin Jefferson goes up. Obviously, he's blanketed there, and he only could stick one arm out there. And, you got to give it to Jettis here. Justin Jefferson.
I wanted it so bad to be Gobert. That's why I said Gobert. I apologize. Justin Jefferson wins this one. Bill, listen, McCarr's was an overtime winner, and it was an incredible goal. If you haven't watched it, it's absolutely insane. Spins
That's
around
the one thing about this. Like, these plays really aren't getting the love they deserve because we don't have the full video for it, but all three of them, absolutely incredible.
Bill?
I'm going with McCarr just because it took the most skill out of the three of them. Ja Morant didn't even dunk the damn ball. He threw it in. I don't count that as a dunk. I'm old school. And Justin Jefferson, the dude stopped the ball for him. The defender didn't even have it in his hands, ripped it out. He wouldn't even have caught it. So whatever, over that.
Oh, you sound like a hater over there,
no,
Bill.
I'm just playing. I'm glad I don't have to make a decision on this one, to be completely honest.
Jay Jettis with the win. Now
I would say this: if I had to rank them, it'd probably be Jay Jettis, then McCarr, then Morant. If I'm being honest, though,
that's fair. The Bill Shallcross Award. Go ahead, Bill. Read it out.
So we talked about it earlier. I kind of made a joke, like literally like the first show of the year. I can't remember what happened that show, but I just made it.
Brandon Staley.
That's what it was.
That's exactly what it was.
I made a silly comment about he's the lead nominee for Boner of the Year award already. And it's been kind of funny. It's just something that stuck through the year with us for the show. So
right.
we turn it into the award. So this is our little award now. We're going to copyright it. So if you use it, you're going to have to pay this show royalties. So we're going to go with Boner of the Year award. The first nominee is fresh in everybody's mind. You have the whole the throwback play against the Patriots, against the Raiders. They got Mac Jones run over by Khalil Mack like a Mack truck, no pun intended. We have the Dan Orlovsky Jr. play of a quarterback just running out of the back of the end zone and not being aware. And then the third one, we have maybe the craziest non-punt I've ever seen. I'm not quite sure how to really explain it, even being a kicker myself. But I will, since Gene wants to go last, I'll go second on this one. Cottrell can go first.
No, you can go last, bro. I was just kidding.
Okay. I feel like it's going to be first. Over anyway.
No worries here. You got Chandler Jones just putting Mac Jones through the turf. I think it's funny. The Jimmy G play is funny because, Dan Orlovsky was finally, I'm not the only one to do this stupid shit. And then you got South Carolina State's punter punting the ball like 5 yards down the field after he tried to run for a first down and clearly was stopped way before he should have punted it. But I gotta go with the one that's super fresh in my mind, and that's Jacoby Myers' decision to lateral the ball in a tied ball game, and you lose on that play. Like these other plays, the 49ers didn't lose off of this play. South Carolina State didn't lose off of this play. The Patriots lost because Jacoby Myers decided to lateral the ball backwards, and he got his quarterback put through the turf to lose the game. So I gotta go, Jacoby Myers and his blunder there.
Yeah, Bill. I just want to give that play justice, the one play justice. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm going with Jacoby Myers as well. We've already talked about it. I know Gene used that as "you got to be kidding me" last week.
Worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so I think it's that. I think it's running away. I'm pretty sure Gene's going to vote for it, but I'll let him have his say. I think it's going to be wild too that if it comes down to and the Patriots miss the playoffs by one game, like how much of a bigger just absolute horse's ass this play becomes if they miss the playoffs by one game.
I just want to give the South Carolina State punt a little bit more like credence to it. It was 4th and 19. I want you to look where the circle is, where he punts the ball at, right? It was 4th and 19. The call was not a fake punt. He's seen an avenue open, and he start running at that, like the area that was open. He gets about 5 yards from the first down. So now he's ran 14 yards past the line of scrimmage, about 24 total yards he ran, right? He's about 5 yards from the first down, and he sees a guy about to hit him, and he panic punched the ball 14 yards past the line of scrimmage. He had already ran 24 yards and just decided, oh, shit, I'm not getting hit, and punched the ball. That play is not getting the justification it needs. However, you can't get worse than Jacoby Myers, man. The Ramondre Stevenson part of it sucks. Like he shouldn't have pitched it back to Jacoby Myers, but it's one skill position player pitching into another skill position player in an area right by the sideline.
And he was ready.
Jacoby Myers throwing the ball to the middle of the field, 25 yards in the air, 30 yards in the air to Mac Jones, and missing him by 10 yards short. Like there was nobody there but Mac Jones and Chandler Jones, who just ran him over and ran in for the winning touchdown. That's got to win it. That's got to win it. Everybody in the comments, I appreciate you guys tuning in for our award show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But man, what a fun award show. We'll do these every year. We're really past on time. We're 2.5 hours in. Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Cantrell.
So I got a couple. I will say I don't want to like ruin any, but we talked about one already, so I don't think that we're going to use it. Riverboat Ron not knowing that they could have been eliminated from the playoffs. Like that's a complete blunder. I won't use a sound effect for it, but I don't know how you can not know that in that situation. And you also have to think that was the first game that he decided to, go back to Carson Wentz. So I wonder if he knew that they were, there was a chance for them to not make the playoffs. Would he have still went with, Taylor Heineke in that situation? So I want to use Ron Rivera for that. But I want to get on the NCAA football officials. We keep having the argument about what is targeting, what's not targeting. And we saw it in the Michigan TCU game where it looked like there was helmet-to-helmet contact and targeting wasn't called. We saw even more egregious one in the USC Tulane game where it was clear helmet-to-helmet targeting, and you get the call on the field and they go back to replay and say there's no targeting there. And then, of course, you have the, some people say it was, some people say it wasn't. Ohio State and Georgia game. I would err on the side of caution there. I don't think that was targeting, but you just have these instances where you know what targeting is by the letter of the law, and then you see things get played out on the field, and it's a completely different animal. Sometimes you see people get their helmet put into someone's chest, and it gets called targeting. I understand by rule, crown of the helmet, that's the whole thing, but just give us something that's consistent and that we can know what's targeting, what's not targeting. So for me, the NCAA this week.
On, you gotta be kidding me.
Bill, you're not going to use the Jeff Saturday or the Jeff Saturday Kayvon Thibodeau thing, are you?
It's on my list.
No, good. I just wanted to respond to Eric Rosenblum because I think he's absolutely in the wrong, but I'll just get in that in a second.
Yeah, so I think Eric's also missing the point. I don't think he necessarily – I'm going to start with this one now. I don't think he really thought the hit was dirty per se. Jeff Saturday was more pissed off about Kayvon Thibodeau doing a snow angel on the ground as Nick Foles was pretty much having a spasm on the field next to him, clearly injured. I mean, I don't want to say it was dirty. I mean, but I think you can make a case that it wasn't the cleanest hit in the world. But Jeff Saturday, listen, it's also his quarterback, dude. And yeah, we've talked about at length today about how at the end of the day, none of these guys want to see each other hurt. They're not trying to hurt anybody. When you have a guy laying there and having that reaction and being hit, literally almost having a seizure on the field, and then you're laying next to him doing snow angels as a celebratory for your sack, it's not a good look, dude. It's not a good look. So that would be my first one. The second one we kind of already talked about as well, briefly, because RJ brought it up. Kind of Dana White down in, I don't know if it was Cancun or it was somewhere down in Mexico. I'm not sure. They were partying. Apparently, they both had way too much to drink, and Dana said something to her that she didn't like, and she turned around and smacked him, and then he smacked her twice back. And it was caught on tape, of course, and TMZ got their grubby little hands on it, so now it's public, as it should be. Honestly, I'll give Dana some type of credit in that Dana likes to say things sometimes, and he didn't with this at all. He said it was completely wrong, completely his fault. He never should have done it. It's the first time it ever happened. That being said, I think there's got to be some sort of punishment. You have $1 billion contract with ESPN for covering and carrying UFC fights. I know he's in the fight game. That being said, it's a horrible look when your head promoter smacking his wife on camera. I don't think there's any way that there can't be some kind of repercussions from ESPN for that. So I'm glad that he didn't do what some other people did and try to make excuses. I'm glad he owned it, and he owned up to it right away and made no excuses for it and apologized. His wife has also come out and said that it's never happened before. I tend to believe that, but my main one this week is going to go back to a topic that we talked about earlier. Gene brought up the point that the only reason this football game really didn't resume is because of what Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor decided to do. The NFL's come out and denied this. I don't believe them at all. The officials were given communication that they would give both teams 5 minutes to warm up and to restart the game. Everybody was still clearly shook. Zach Taylor went over and talked to Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott said what he did to Zach Taylor about, I don't think I can be here. I need to go to the hospital with my player. And Zach Taylor completely agreed. And apparently the conversation went somewhere along the lines, I agree. F them. We're not playing this game. They hugged, shook hands. Zach Taylor was on his headset, called up to his coaches in the box, and he said, we're not playing. Anybody that's on the phone or whatever, tell our guys to go back in the locker room. We're not playing the game. They are the only people that handled this situation correctly on Monday night or Sunday night, excuse me. We've talked about it before. Right. Monday night, sorry. Got my days confused because of New Year's. All three of us have talked at length on this show how it's a joke about the NFL pretends to care about the safety of players, their well-being, their long-term health. They don't care. They care about their money. They care about their ratings. It's been proven over and over. This is another situation where they got it wrong. The fact that they started backtracking immediately lends me to believe everything that Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott said. They haven't made the officials of the game public or available for public comment because you know how that's going to go. It's just another disgusting instance of trying to put money and ratings before actual human beings. This isn't a guy that broke his ankle and it was kind of graphic or had even a really bad concussion. This guy was technically dead for 9 minutes on a football field in front of the entire viewing audience, which on a holiday weekend was higher than it usually was. And on top of that, it was a great game. It was two of the best teams in the league. And the NFL bundled it and dropped the ball once more. So for this week, for just being disgusting human beings and making the wrong call yet again in regards to the health of the people who make you billions of dollars every year, the NFL.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Mine goes to one of the dirtiest players that ever played in the NFL, Bart Scott. Okay. Bart Scott's not an ESPN analyst, and he's an absolute clown for what he did. T. Higgins was visibly shook. If you watch the play, there's nothing dirty about it. T. Higgins is dropping his shoulder, trying to get an extra few yards. His shoulder goes in Damar Hamlin's chest, and Damar Hamlin, everything that happened with Damar Hamlin afterwards, we've talked about that at length. Bart Scott went on ESPN saying it was T. Higgins' fault for dropping his shoulder into his chest, and that's not the way you're supposed to run, and putting blame on T. Higgins for what happened on that football field. T. Higgins was shook up, broken down, looked for his mom. He's been in contact with Damar Hamlin's family. He's done everything. Damar Hamlin's family has told Twitter and anybody else, Bart Scott, to lay off T. Higgins. It's not, they have no blame, no issue with what he did. It was not a dirty play at all. Bart Scott went on ESPN and talked about what T. Higgins did to cause that. That is like so ridiculous. And it makes me sick to my stomach. And I'll tell you what I compare it to, right? I'll tell you what I compare it to. And this is probably a little controversial, but I'm telling you, I feel this way. When something happens where a person takes their own life, God willing, takes their own life, and people start blaming people in their life that, like an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend because of a breakup, or a friend that isn't friend with them anymore. Oh, it's your fault they took their own life. It's your fault. And placing blame instead of trying to fix this. Obviously can't fix the situation, but instead of actually seeing what that situation happened and consoling and giving condolence to the family and saying prayers to people around it. Stop pointing fingers. What happened on that field was a tragedy. But what Bart Scott did was an absolute joke, and I think he should be thrown off of TV. People talk about Skip Bayless, what Skip Bayless said. And listen, I don't agree with the context of what Skip Bayless said, but I am nowhere near what everyone else is calling for his job, and I hate Skip Bayless. What Bart Scott did was more egregious than what Skip Bayless did, and no one's saying a damn word about it. Bart Scott is a joke, should be fired from ESPN for blaming that on T. Higgins, who's already broken up, shooken up. And Bart Scott, you just Google dirty plays, Bart Scott. There's YouTube videos. He's named one of the 25 dirtiest players in NFL history. What he did could have caused any of that stuff. Way worse than what T. Higgins did. What? Because what happened afterwards, you're going to blame T. Higgins and say it's his fault? You're an absolute joke, Bart Scott. And for that reason, come on, man.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Sorry, it's an emotional show for me tonight. And we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Real quick, I wanted to throw in, Eric Rosenblum said he didn't think that Kayvon Thibodeau, thought it was dirty in the situation. It was a bang play and all that. I actually agree with that. It was all the stuff afterwards on the sideline, him basically motioning that he put Nick Foles to sleep. Like that's my only issue with it. The Snow Angels, I have no problem with that on the field, because in that moment you don't know. You just think the quarterback, you sack him, it's no big deal, and you celebrate. So I'm cool with the Snow Angels. Just to put to sleep comment, gesture afterwards that I have an issue with.
I have issue with the Snow Angels too. He's laying on the ground. His hand, he has to move his arms visibly to make sure he doesn't hit him when he's on the ground.
Yeah, but QBs get hit, they lay on the ground. Sometimes they're looking for a call. Like you don't know he's actually injured in that time frame. It's not like he got up and went back to the ground and lay next to him to do the Snow Angels. You don't know in that moment that he's hurt.
I got you. He continued it though after he was hurt, and you said that. Bill, any final thoughts, bud?
No, I mean it was a fun show, a little bit more serious than I think we like to. But again, I think it was something that we had to talk about and address. we don't shy away from too many things on here. It's a good combo. And I mean, next week, I think we get into the favorite part of the year for, well, maybe not the number one for me, Cottrell, but maybe. But we'll play football next year, and we'll win national champion in the college game. So next week shall be an exciting show.
Well, I'm just going to leave you with this final comment. Hug your loved ones, because you never know when life can stop. Damar Hamlin is a healthy, middle 20 age male in the NFL, and his life almost ended and still could. He's in critical condition. So hug your loved ones, and don't say anything or do anything that can't be done, can't be fixed. I'm not going to give you the whole Maury speech at the end of the show, but just know life is precious, man. You might not know the next time you see this person, if you ever see this person again. So hug your loved ones, and say a prayer for Damar Hamlin and his family. And thank you for tuning in and sitting with us through show 117. I appreciate y'all coming in. And this is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast signing out.